group. Welcome back. We appreciate you being here each and every day and everything you do to continue to move the space forward. Please go ahead and get your daily heart meet and don't forget to claim your points. We have just a few rules in our little old space here. We ask that everybody be respectful, and we do mean everybody. That means no slurs on the panel, no slurs in the comments. We don't do slurs, and we do not debate people's humanity. So if you want to get cute, you can do it, but you'll be doing it on your way out the door. Please do not use all caps. It's for the mods and for those with vision impairment. And please do not spam the chat. If you want to say Trump's your daddy, that's fine. Just don't say it over and over again. And if you want to say Lisa and Stacey are amazing, say that maybe twice. But don't say that over and over again either. Don't forget to like, don't forget to share, gift if you can, no pressure. It's tough out here in these TikTok streets. And if you're going to share, please make sure to only do it like 3-4 times because TikTok does not like it when we spam anything on our platform. So like, share, engage in conversation. They do like that. And all of those things that we just said just tells TikTok that you are having an amazing time here and you find what we're doing engaging. So without further ado, we're going to say hello to our panel mate, Steve from Fact Still Matters. Amazing. He had me up on his panel this morning. We had a great conversation there and we're going to take it away. Welcome in, Steve.
Good evening, friends. Thanks for having me. Glad to be here. And by the way, I just want to clarify, not just amazing, but totally amazing. So there you go.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Steve. Much love to you, friend. I completely missed your show this morning. I've been very frustrated of late because work has been working and I am just unable to catch any lives lately during the day. Just can't do it. Yeah, I just joined the club, but apparently, Stacey was all the rave on Steve's show. Our friends Lance and Devin were talking about it. The fact that Stacey was just so amazing, huh?
Me?
What was that? Yeah.
Take your flowers.
You didn't
take your flowers.
Yeah. Lance texted. He was like, "Oh yeah, Stacey was absolute." He called it Stacey's segment. Stacey's segment this morning, the planned thing this morning on Steve's show was absolutely incredible. And I'm like, FOMO, like a mofo.
Thank you. I only happened to catch it because I was up for class and I was getting ready and I just jumped out and it was just such a great moment that Steve had with a loyal listener who was on the wrong side of things and through his diligence and patience and compassion, but boundaries. He was able to, I don't want to say fully convert him, but he is willing to listen. He's committed to voting in the midterms for a Democrat. And I hope he sticks around and I hope he tells everybody about it. So thank you so much for having me, Steve. And thank you for my flowers, guys.
Yeah, I mean, he took the political compass test last night live in real time at like 11 p.m. last night. And he found out that yeah, it was one of those moments that you kind of, we do the work. And it's one of those moments you're like, wow, I had no idea I was a radical leftist. No idea. So it was great. It was really cool.
I feel like a lot of people are, dude. They're afraid of the labels, right? And they don't understand what we actually believe in.
It's true.
And they're like, yeah. And then when they find out, they're like, oh yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
It's not so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not so bad.
Yeah, we're not.
And I didn't have to dye my hair blue or purple or anything.
So one of the things I wanted to mention before we get into this interview is something that Stacey and I were alerted to, and just maybe it is the case where we just haven't been, apprised of this information, and we just happen to miss it. But Steve, I don't know if you've seen it, but did you know that the U.S. government filed court documents that admitted that the reason that we are in a war right now with Iran is because Israel asked us to?
I didn't see that, but I do know that the president, in his infinite wisdom, air quotes, a couple weeks back said that that's why we were there. So that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. Apparently, yeah, it's called the Rubenstein memo.
Okay.
And yeah, Thank you. Trisha is, everybody is just doing some things. Hi, Benny. Thank you so much. But yeah, so apparently in court, they had to provide reasoning, right? Like, why did you go into this war without congressional approval? Where was the fire? And it says that the United States is engaged in this conflict at the request of and in the collective self-defense of its Israeli ally, as well as in the exercise of the United States' own inherent right of self-defense. So I know the rooster is confused.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah. So I didn't think you guys could hear the rooster.
Oh, we can hear the rooster. It's going off.
Here, let me close the door. But yeah, so I don't know how it was our self-defense because we weren't being threatened. But I guess that's why they keep saying that, you know, oh, they were about to attack us. Because they needed that as like a pretense.
I'm looking it up now. I got a little light reading to do after apparently tonight. So there's that. Wow. Okay. Great. Good to know.
Yeah.
Super.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It is super. But yeah, I thought that was interesting. Also, Farah sent me something about Peter Thiel. Hold on, let's see if I can find it in all this mess. So a new report from Wired has revealed details about a little-known invitation-only organization called Dialogue. It's a private network founded by billionaire tech investor Peter Thiel and entrepreneur Aaron Hoffman. According to Wired, Swiss hacktivist Maya Arsen Crimo discovered and exposed data connected to Dialogue's online infrastructure. Wired independently verified the materials, which reportedly included participant directories, registration records, retreat attendance histories, biographical information, internal moderator guides, event schedules, and personal profile information. The leak appears to expose information relating to approximately 222 registrants for the upcoming 2026 retreat in Ireland, along with records from previous events. This Dialogue thing has often been compared to the Bilderberg group because it brings together influential people from technology, politics, business, academia, media, national security, and entertainment for private off-the-record discussion. I don't like any of this. So the leak revealed that participants included elected officials, military leaders, intelligence and national security experts, Silicon Valley executives, journalists, academics, nonprofit leaders, investors, and even Hollywood figures. One of the most surprising aspects of the leak is that the group appears to include people from across the political spectrum who publicly disagree on many major issues. The organization describes itself as a place where influential individuals can have candid conversations outside of the public spotlight. Yeah, it sounds like where the Epstein class goes to make, to plot our destruction. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, I find it interesting that I read that New York Times that news story last week about the infamous meeting in the Situation Room, right? And then J.D. Vance did that interview on The View yesterday and didn't deny it. In fact, he basically doubled down. Oh yeah, we had this meeting in the Situation Room, and yeah, we talked about all this kind of stuff, and yeah, and now the White House is freaking out that they've got all these spies or moles or hidden cameras or whatever else. And you're right, Lisa, it's the plotting of the people that are getting away with these horrible crimes, and they will continue to get away with it unless we stand up and vote them out and bring congressional hearings and charges, etc.
Yeah.
Yes.
100%. So some of the people that are the names are on these lists is Ted Cruz, Jim Hines, who is a Democratic representative, Scott Bessent, who's the Treasury Secretary, the senior NATO commander, the former DEA General Counsel and acting Chief of Staff from under Biden. Let's see, head of global affairs for Google. several national security personnel from multiple administrations. It's just, I don't know. I don't know, guys.
Can we just have a day of normal?
No, apparently not. Apparently the answer to that is no.
Just
Hi,
one.
Anthony.
Hi.
Hi, welcome. Welcome to the panel. Welcome to Friends with Political Benefits. We are so pleased to have you here tonight with us to talk with us. So glad you made the time.
Of course, it's my pleasure.
Thank you, Tricia.
Thank you everyone for doing all the things.
Yeah, thank you for all the gifties and all the taps and all the things. Anthony, you already know me. You've been corresponding with me. I am Lisa. Right next to me is my beautiful, gorgeous, stunning co-host, Lucy. And right below me is Steve, or Facts Still Matter, who is a creator on the app. I'm sure you recognize him from the lives he does and all his great videos. So we, if you're okay, we would like to start off tonight talking about your work in Gaza and some of the things that you saw over there and some of the things that you think is important for the public to know. To get us started, why don't you just tell us a little bit about who you are, like your background, your time, your work in Gaza, like what you were doing there. And also the fact that you're running for North Carolina District 13, and a little bit about your, why you chose to run.
I'll go ahead and start. So I was born and raised in San Antonio, Texas. My parents both served in the military. I joined the Army at 17 and then decided that I wanted to commission. So I applied to and went to West Point, was commissioned as an officer out of West Point, and then served in the Army for 25 years as a Green Beret, as a Special Forces officer. I retired in March of 2025. And in May of 2025, I was recruited. I basically received a cold call from a company called UG Solutions that was contracted to provide armed security for the convoys that were to take humanitarian aid into Gaza. At the time, I was not aware of that it was part of a larger project, which is now known as the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. I had not heard of the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, nor was I aware of it. I had also never heard of UG Solutions. I was not aware of this contracting company. I had never done contract work before. I had only been retired for about 2 months when I got this call. And when they recruited me, they basically explained to me that the humanitarian aid going into Gaza had been halted, had been stopped, that this mechanism of aid, that UG Solutions would be securing these UN trucks to deliver aid, would be the new mechanism. So I asked them, this was on a Tuesday when they called me, Tuesday, May 13th, and I asked, when do you need an answer? And they said, well, we're leaving Thursday, so we need an answer by tomorrow. So I thought about it, and I basically asked, well, why are you recruiting me? I was an officer, wasn't necessarily a door kicker or a shooter. And they said, well, we have plenty of those. We've got plenty of contractors, armed guard contractors. We need individuals to lead in planning and operations. And based on your background, you were recommended. So we're reaching out to you. We need to fill this contract and we don't have very long to do it. So I basically took an inventory of what I knew, that human beings in Gaza were starving. Regardless of who they were, people were starving and suffering and in need, and that the United States was going to be a part of this mechanism to deliver aid in replacement of the UN aid. At this point, UNRWA had been denied entry. So I said yes, I went. And at that moment, if someone were to ask me where I stood in terms of pro-Palestinian, pro-Israeli, pro-IDF. How do you see H group? I would have responded with what you would expect an American service member to respond with, that, well, Israel's our greatest ally. The war was started by H group. They're a theist organization. But I didn't really see it in terms of that perspective. I saw it as, I'm no longer in the military. I'm no longer an Army officer. I'm no longer taking a side in terms of war. I wanted to assist and help in the delivery of humanitarian aid to feed and alleviate suffering of starving human beings, regardless of who they were. When I got to Israel and subsequently operated in Gaza from the 24th of May until the 14th of June, it became very clear to me that this entire enterprise was established as a means of another branch or a shaping operation to the greater Israeli military operation to continue to occupy and seize terrain and to continue to forcefully displace Palestinians within Gaza to the south as part of this grander plan that the GHF was incorporated within. And then when I was there, within the first 48 hours, I started to learn kind of who's who behind these organizations. I learned what the GHF was. I had not known who they were prior. And then when I learned that Jake Wood was the director of the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, I kind of thought that is odd. Jake Wood, formerly a founder of Blackwater, Triple Canopy, Constellus, paramilitary, military contract entities. I was like, well, that's an odd choice for humanitarian aid.
That's a real odd choice for humanitarian aid.
Yeah. And then once I was there, once we got into country, I was then introduced to our bosses, our higher headquarters, if you think of it in a military construct, that we would be answering not to GHF, we would be answering directly to Safe Reach Solutions, which was the prime contract. So then I learned that, okay, this is not a humanitarian aid effort that the United States is supporting. This is a private contract. This is a for-profit private contract. And that contract was between Safe Reach Solutions and the Israeli government. The contract, the agent and the client was the United States Safe Reach Solutions and the Israeli government through the Coordinating Office of the Governing Activities in the Territories, or COGAT, who is the Ministry of Defense apparatus that controls everything that goes in and out of the West Bank and Gaza. So this was a direct performance-based, make money for-profit contract where, you know, the profit margin is the bottom line, not humanitarian aid. And then when I was introduced to the people within Safe Reach Solutions that I would be working for, these were individuals that I had met in my military career. A gentleman by the name of Phil Riley, who is a career branch chief of the Special Activities Division or Ground Branch, basically the black ops of the CIA. Another odd choice for humanitarian aid. And then the guy in charge of the security contract under UG Solutions in Gaza was an individual named Johnny Mulford, who was the national president of the Infidels Outlaw Motorcycle Club. So these were the characters who were in charge up and down the spectrum of humanitarian aid under a profit-based contract with Israel, not the UN, not an unbiased entity, but with the military of Israel. The leader of a motorcycle gang that calls themselves the Infidels, a subsequent contract holder who was once the director of Special Activities Division and Ground Branch in CIA, and a guy named Jake Wood, who at one point, helped found Blackwater and Triple Canopy and other paramilitary-like contracting entities. So as I started to see all the players in this, I was like, this doesn't seem like humanitarian aid. And then on the first day when we were taken into Gaza, escorted by the IDF to conduct a reconnaissance of the distribution sites, it became even more clear to me that there was a problem here, that the distribution sites were not in the local area where Palestinians were, where the need was. These distribution sites were established miles away from the remaining neighborhoods and enclaves of surviving Palestinians, to where any Palestinian that wanted food would have to trek many miles through a war zone, through active combat zones. And some may argue, well, all of Gaza is a war zone. And as much as that may be true, there are areas, there are support areas, there are safe areas, there are combat areas, there are close combat areas, there are the front lines, etc. And Palestinians were forced to go directly through areas of open combat hostility in order to reach these aid sites. And when we got to these sites, the IDF gave us a military map with their military graphics and icons of their ongoing operations. And I looked at that, and the question that I posed standing there in Tal al-Sultan at site number 1 was to the group, we cannot distribute humanitarian aid from these locations if there's active combat operations going on where these locations have been built directly within. That is a violation of the Geneva Convention. That is a violation of international law. That's a violation of US law. Chapter 18 of US Code. That violates our own laws. We can't do this. And their response to that was, well, it doesn't apply to Palestinians. They're not real people. They're not a country. It doesn't apply when you're talking about a terrorist organization like H Group. The Israeli government has said that we can do this, so we can.
Wow.
So as we began our first day of distribution on the 26th of May, the food that we brought in no water, 0 water, not a drop. And the only food we brought in was rotten, spoiled, expired, rat-infested food that had been sitting out in the sun at Karim Shalom Gate to distribution site 1, where there were 34,000 Palestinians waiting. And we only brought enough food for about 9,000 people. Yet we advertised that we were bringing food to feed everyone. And that site that day turned into a complete overrun of starving human beings, Palestinians, women and children and fathers and grandmothers and aunts and uncles, and all unarmed. Not a single member of H Group, not a single person armed with a stick, knife, or a gun. Starving people seeking food. And we were told before we went into Gaza, everyone's H Group. They all want to kidnap or unalive you. They're all theists. Make no doubt about it, any opportunity they get to kidnap you or take you or use you as leverage, they will. Be on guard. Well, when we got to the site and you have 34,000 people rushing to a food distribution site, and there's only 30 of you contractors on site, that's 1 to 1,020 ratio. So I thought, I was like, man, if what they say is true, we're done.
Right.
And not one Palestinian threatened us, gave us a bad look, spit at us, punched us, pushed us, grabbed us, kidnapped us, killed us, stabbed us. We were greeted with thank yous and smiles and people begging for food. Mothers dragging a wooden pallet with their dead children. Fathers carrying their dead children that had died of starvation or had been killed in the war, because they had nowhere to bury them. Because if you dare dig a hole anywhere in Gaza, you will be killed by the IDF. And in that moment, I realized, okay, we're not dealing with enemy or theists. We're dealing with a whole lot of people who are dying of starvation and who are in desperate need. And I was still under the presumption that the goal, the mission was to feed, was to provide aid, was to alleviate suffering, was to bring in food and water and medicine and formula and vaccines, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And yet we never did. The food kept getting worse. The amount kept getting less. And we never, ever brought in any water until one day when I asked the bosses, how is it that we're not bringing in any water to these sites? And they said very clearly, it's not in the contract. And sure enough, I asked, I was like, if you expect me to be in charge of operations, to plan convoys, numbers of trucks, driving hours, fuel, routes, coordination with the IDF as to when they're conducting bombing, et cetera, I need to know what our constraints and restrictions and limitations are. What can we bring in? What can't we bring in? So I was given a copy of this contract between Safe Reach Solutions and the Israeli government. And it absolutely said that we would not be bringing in water, because the unit cost per truck, per mile, per gallon of gas per driver is not cost effective to bring in 1 truck or pallets of water when you can bring in 3 equivalent pallets of food. And it had nothing to do with the quality of food or the amount of food. It had to do with the optic. And mind you, all of the food that we were bringing in was dried food goods, dried rice, dried beans, pasta, flour, dried lentils, all of which you require water to cook. And we were providing no water, much less water to drink, no water to prepare food. And I then learned from paying attention to days of operations that whenever the Palestinians would be released from holding areas within Gaza, from their neighborhoods or from military corridors, the Netzarim corridor, the Marag corridor, the Nahal Oz corridor, these military corridors where they would be contained like cattle, that when they were released from these areas to come to these sites, they then didn't get to go home. So once they crossed the Marag corridor to site 1, 2, or 3, and mind you, under the United Nations and UNRWA, there were 400 community-based distribution sites all throughout Gaza, from north to south, from west to east, from Gaza City to Erez to Tal Sultan. And under the GHF, we were operating only 3 sites. Under the UNRWA, 600 trucks were brought in every single day. Imagine a city of 2 million people where every single thing, from every drop of water to every morsel of food, to every diaper, every bit of formula, everything is brought in externally. Well, that requirement, simply to maintain life, was 600 trucks a day. And under the GHF, we were servicing 3 sites with 12 trucks a day total. Not 12 trucks per site, 12 trucks total. And as I started to put this together day by day by day and realize this is not by accident, this is not because of lack of resources, this is not because of lack of funds. US State Department gave the GHF $60 million. That this was intentional, that this was by design, and that the intent of these sites was to draw Palestinians to these food distribution sites as a way to forcefully displace them from their homes, to then bomb them. And then they would get sent to encampment areas encampment areas that were no longer run by the United Nations. Open sewage, no electricity, no environmental factors for hygiene, no running water, just becoming in basically concentration camps.
The
And
food was bait, is what you're saying. The food was bait. That's why they didn't care about them not having water. That's why they didn't care if it was spoiled. It was bait. Like, that was it.
it was bait to displace, but then to also serve the intelligence apparatus, because at these sites, because I was in charge of doing the convoys, and I remember having to put convoys together where we had to send in armed security, not to deliver aid, but to escort CIA personnel to install biometric cameras at these sites. And these were the individuals that showed up to our operations center in Karim Shalom were not used to be CIA. They were blue badge carrying Langley CIA, which was odd, right? For a humanitarian aid operation.
Mm-hmm.
And they were installing cameras that then fed into the operations center with the brains of it, if you will, run by Palantir Gotham and Microsoft Azure and Amazon, into a biometric database that Safe Reach Solutions personnel were then collating and then giving to the IDF, who would then use that information to track military-aged males to then follow up with strikes, kinetic strikes, depending on where those individuals came from.
I had so many questions for you,
I
Anthony,
know.
but you've answered so many just going through that process. First of all, thank you for the work that you attempted to do. One of the things that I think has always been troubling is the information vacuum, or I should say lack of information. And I think it's pretty obvious who has been censoring that information. So I think a lot of people have had rumors of some of the horrific events as you've described. The challenge, I think, for people who truly do want to get access to more information, what would your recommendation do? Where can we, those that want to stay informed, how would you recommend, American citizens who are in the world citizenry who care about humanity? What would you consider to be a trusted source for people to try to get information? You may not be able to answer that succinctly, but I'm just curious because I'm an information hound myself.
Oh, I hear you. And that's very difficult. And really the best source of information is, like back in the day when you used to, write a history report, right? What's the best source? Primary sources.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I tell you, I'm educated. I served in the military. I've seen a lot of things to know the difference between lies and not lies. And I believed Western media. I believed the hype. I believed the propaganda that, oh, it's not that bad. Oh, the Gaza health ministry is just spinning these lies. You can't trust them. Israel is doing everything they can to mitigate civilian harm. They're the best army in the world. They're our greatest ally. I believed all this. I did not go to Israel, to Gaza, looking to prove a point as an activist or looking to be like, aha, gotcha. I saw with my own eyes and still had to be further convinced to the point where it was undeniable, to where there is no more covering for it or lying for it or creating justification or excuses. What is happening in Gaza is a genocide. What is happening is murder at a grand scale. And it is being done through genocide, ethnocide, fratricide, paternicide, infanticide, death, starvation, burning, burying, blowing up, killing, dying of disease, drowning, shooting them so far into the water off of the coastal road when they open up fire with helicopters, Apaches, by the way, that we give them, or artillery fire, to where the only place to go is to run into the ocean and they drown. That's what they're doing to people. Bodies washing up on the coast. Bodies left in the streets. The first time I went into Gaza was on the 24th of May. I went in escorted by the IDF to conduct this reconnaissance. My experience, the lens that I see things through, was an experience of Afghanistan multiple times, Iraq, Baghdad, Sadr City, Fallujah, Mosul, back to Iraq in the fight against ISIS, Syria, Raqqa, Dawazar, seeing things that you would hope that other human beings would never have to see, that you hope you can forget about in your later life, that you know you never will. That the only way that you ever come to grips with these things is through therapy. You don't forget it. And when I went into Gaza, what I saw broke me, shocked me. Had never in my life seen anything like it or worse. Driving through the ruins of Tal al-Sultan in Rafah, freshly destroyed buildings, apartments, schools, child daycare centers, community centers, mosques, hospitals, clinics. There was no H group tunnels in the south. And driving through Rafah, they had freshly destroyed and bombarded so many of the buildings that the only way through it to get to the distribution site in Rafah, site number 3, was they had to lead with one of those giant D9 bulldozers, like the type that killed Rachel Corrie. The D9 bulldozers to lead the way to make paths through the rubble. And as we're going, slow rolling, you can hear human beings crying out in the rubble, buried. No way to get to them, dying, or rabbit-infested dogs ripping off the arm of a child and running away with it. Left for dead. Children as old as infants. And it is a genocide. It is as bad as you could ever imagine that it is. And it is intentional. And I'll tell you, I'll end kind of the prologue experience so we can go into questions and more discussion, but I'll end that Gaza experience with this as to what really kind of rattled me. I still believe that, okay, this is bad, but this is the IDF. They're not the world's most moral army. They're not even the best army in Gaza. They're not a good army. They're not moral. This is intentional. This is horrific. And the United States, we know about it, but maybe there's just nothing we can do except try to do what we can. This isn't our fault. And then on the 10th of June, the decision was made that our distribution site off of the Netzarim corridor was going to be handed over to the IDF. This was further in the north, up near just in northern Berej, south of Gaza City. And we had a site there that we used very infrequently because it was very difficult to operate there because there was ongoing military. I'm talking about, like, I almost got shot by a tank. I actually have video where I was at one of these sites and I walked up to the gate and a Markava tank turned its main gun toward me and I had to like run back the other way. It was a dangerous place to operate. So we didn't operate there frequently. But we were told that that distribution site was going to be occupied by an Israeli artillery unit to support artillery fire into the city for the offensive into Gaza City. And we had to turn it all over. So we had to take out of our equipment. We had to take all the CIA folks to get all of our biometric cameras. We had to do all this stuff. So in order to plan this, we had to go to the IDF Southern Command headquarters in Beersheba. And while we were there planning with IDF senior planners, myself and some others, putting together this plan of like, okay, you're going to escort us here. We're going to bring the stuff out. Then you're going to go here, you know, kind of how we planned this handover. First time I'd been to the Southern Command headquarters. And while I'm there, think of a military headquarters, maps, you know, computer screens, you know, the whole, like you would see in a military headquarters. And on the wall of this headquarters, this was not a field headquarters. This was an institutional headquarters, like a Fort Bragg or something like that. This was not a combat outpost. There was this big map on the wall that showed Gaza in its phases of reconstruction. And it was this computer-generated model of this overlay of the reconstruction of Gaza from phase 1 through phase 4, and it was called Project Sunrise, which I didn't know then, but is now part of this ceasefire board of peace. It's Jared Kushner's project. It's the rebuilding project that's part of the board of peace for the rebuilding of Gaza. And I'm looking at it, and there's condos on the beach, golf courses, the entire Salah ad-Din Road being carved out and turned into the Ben Gavir Canal, connecting the Wadi Gaza all the way south towards Egypt, where there's condominiums and a Riviera restaurants, and there's a high-speed train to go around. There's an industrial park, petroleum, oil off the coast. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, this is some dystopian shit. Like, what? And I look at it, the date on this map of when it was created in this Project Sunrise was 2021. And I was like, I got to get out of here. Can't be a part of this. This is planned. This is a planned genocide. For occupation and domination and money.
Of course. Of course.
So
We've seen. Go ahead.
go ahead, Steve. No, I was going to reiterate your question earlier. So where do you, because I think that a lot of us are familiar with what you're talking about of falling for the propaganda. I know I did, right? I did until I came on the app and I actually met Palestinians who lived in Palestine and Gaza and were telling us what they were experiencing. So where do you get your information? What sources do you trust for information about what's going on in Gaza?
I attend, or I participate in, or at least as a listener, to a lot of panels, Doctors Against Genocide, because they actually had doctors that were there.
Yeah.
Other panels where people from Gaza are actually speaking. And you know, I wouldn't necessarily say that you can't take any news source as untrue. It's a matter of taking a news source and taking the news, but separating the opinion of whether it's Fox or CNN or BBC. Because in a lot of these things, you'll see across the board. Israel conducts strikes in Gaza. Okay, they're saying it, they're saying it, they're saying it. All right, that seems to be like I can take that as a truth. But then you hear the spin on it. IDF defend themselves against H group. Or Palestinians adamant about not cooperating with peace. And you see all this spin to it, right? So it's a matter of taking the objective information, which you can get from many sources, but then looking deeper to a magnitude of other sources, whether it's other news outlets. And when I say this, people are like, oh my God, how dare you? Yeah, like Al Jazeera. I'm not saying you have to listen to Al Jazeera and take that as gospel, but it's important to take things like RT, Al Jazeera, Fox, CNN, PBS, other sources, and then, panels such as this where you have a primary source, and putting those things together to come to your own conclusion about, okay, what's likely true and what's likely not, because there's always going to be a perception of some doubt if you're not actually there. But it's very difficult for everybody to be there.
The challenge of come to your own conclusion, though, I think can be dangerous. I often talk about the importance of media literacy and navigating. And the reason that and thank you for reiterating the question about sourcing. I think the challenge that as humans, when we don't have an answer to a question, our bias tends to fill the empty space in our head, and then we create our own solution. And I think that's the danger of coming to your own conclusion. So I think verified sources, ground news is one, because they tend to be down the middle. I grew up working in media, so it's really important to me. Again, distrusting the press is by design for autocratic governments and fascistic governments to create doubt. So it's hard to trust anything. What I heard you say is find reliable sources that are connected to the communities. Doctors Without Borders or whatever it might be. I think somebody mentioned the Cradle. I saw that earlier. So ideally, you don't want to get the news from the news agencies themselves. You would rather get it from the people that are on the ground. Like, does that make sense? Does that track with you? Would you support that direction? I'm not to say
entirely. I entirely support that direction, and I am by no means a fan nor a consumer of legacy media type. But I'm using that as an example of legacy media to say, like, if I'm standing in line at the grocery store and I see the National Enquirer, and the National Enquirer says, New York Knicks defeat Spurs world champion or NBA champion. Okay, that's a horrible source, right? But it's a true statement, right? It's a fact. Okay, the National Enquirer is not where you should get your news, but that bit of information is true. Okay,
headline.
But then you open up the National Enquirer and it says, New York Knicks defeat San Antonio Spurs because Bat Boy scores 800 points. And you're like,
right.
Okay,
right.
You should, just because there's a modicum of fact doesn't mean you then should believe all of it. So I'm saying that when you look at legacy media and there are sources of objective facts, okay, but don't let your inquiry end there as accepting the rest of the story from that sources. Well, then that's the truth behind the fact. Seek further for what the context and what's behind it, and then always take into account who's reporting it. If I'm telling you something about me, I'm great. But if you ask someone else, they're like, well, that guy, maybe not.
Yeah, so a perfect example, then I don't want to, we can move on from a different subject matter, but perfect example is how in-depth you've described what you saw on the ground. That's unique perspective for this audience, because we're not going to get that. No matter what the source is, we're not going to get that unique perspective just because of what you witness. I think most of us understand the severity. Most of us that are paying attention understand the severity. We can look at it from our own vantage point and what we've seen, but to describe it in the detail to which you described it, it needs to be jarring. I don't think people are angry enough. I don't think people are horrified enough. I don't think people are disgusted enough. So first of all, I want to thank you for the work that you've been doing and for bringing us that much information, because it's an advantage for us, Lisa and myself and Stacy and T-Dubs, to be able to have you to talk about it. And I can see it in your face that it still bothers you to this day. So I want to
it bothers me. I mean, I'm kind of getting a little bit teary even thinking about it. There was one day,
I can tell.
And I've got some pictures and photos of this. One of the distribution sites we were on, this young child, mother and older brother, I think, had come to the site. And the younger child, maybe 4 or 5, had lost both of its legs in an airstrike. And this young child, they carted him around, so to speak, in this little plastic crate where they had put makeshift wheels on it with a rope pulling it. And this is how this child got around. And when this little child came to this site where everybody is fighting over the last morsel of food, where UG Solutions contractors are shooting at people and spraying people with mace, this little child, amidst all of this, is sitting in this little yellow plastic makeshift wheelchair cart thing, no legs. And the legs had, there wasn't any surgical process in these. His leg were blown off and they had been wrapped where they're just bloody stubs, like you would think of something in the Civil War. And this young child sitting there eating one of the things in the packages were like these small they're like a nutritional wafer cookie. I forget what they're called. Humanitarian
bar, like a protein bar.
Yeah, it's got a very special name. It's a very specific thing that's in humanitarian aid packages. It's called like nut butter or puds. It's got a specific name. It's calorie dense, tastes horrible, not easy to eat. And this little kid is just sitting there nibbling on this thing with a smile on his face, smiling. And you see that and you think, it's not okay that this is okay. You know what I mean? Like it's not okay that this child thinks that this is okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it's right now as we sit here and talk, there are people right now in Gaza that are dying, not from a bomb, not from a bullet, but breathing their last breath from starvation or disease or vomiting out their last bit of life because they're sick and there's no medicine. And to think that that's going on in our world and we all know about it, and the big, bad, great American military that can, scour the 7 seas and dominate the skies. We can't stop a genocide happening in front of our eyes.
And that's it, right? That's the entire thing. Is like we can do all this stuff. We're supposed to be the richest country in the world. We're supposed to be the mightiest, military and all those things. And we can't feed children. We can't stop, kids from getting murdered. Like we can't do any of that. Like really, like it's so. There's no logic to it. Like there's nothing. There's no excuse. There's nothing that anybody can tell us that would make any sense of why we just have to allow this to happen and why we can't stop this and why we can't feed them. And it just keeps coming back to Israel. It just keeps coming back to the fact that we have let the Israeli government dictate how the United States will move when it comes to just about anything, right? Anything involving domestic, foreign and domestic activities, right? Even activities that happen right in our own borders. Netanyahu and the Israeli government is dictating that. They are funding candidates to make sure that they can get enough candidates in office to make sure that their funding doesn't stop and their weapons, their weapons shipments don't stop.
Exactly.
It's insane. I just wanted to introduce you to another panel member that just came on, Terry, T-Dub Specials. He is also a creator that joins us sometimes for interviews. And so just, hi, Terry, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing well. Running a little bit late today. I've been working a lot of overtime and stuff. And then, of course, I got to get in the gym, and then get something to eat. So,
No problem.
I am a vet as well. I was in the Army. first off, thank you for your service, man. I've got an old battle buddy that's E8 Green Beret there at Fort Bragg, and I also have I have 3 boys, 3 older boys, and all 3 of them are in the military. I have 2 in the Army, and 1 is headed out to basic training for the Marine Corps come October. So he's on the delayed entry program.
Okay. That's how I entered service, the delayed entry program.
Right. So I take it you spent time at Fort Bragg?
I'm here at Fort Bragg now.
Oh, you're at Fort Bragg. Okay.
I spent the majority of my career at 3rd Special Forces Group and U.S. Army Special Operations Command.
Nice. Yeah. If you run into my son, tell him I said, hey. Anyway, he actually just got there. But anyway, no, I just, man, everything you've said has been spot on. I'm curious, what kind of a backlash are you receiving in regards to speaking the truth, on that? Have you received a lot of backlash? Is there are there people coming after you? Like what does that look like on your end?
I've had some direct life-threatening threats. I've had members of the Infidels Motorcycle Club, not only threaten my spouse, threaten me. I've had death threats. I've had magnitudes of people coming out of the woodwork, that I'm everything from I never served in the military. I'm a Hamas plant. I'm a traitor. I don't know what I'm talking about. I was never in Gaza. All kinds of things in terms of insults and hate and even death threats. But I made this decision before I said a word. I said to myself, if you believe that what you witnessed is wrong, immoral, unethical, illegal, well, you can't stay quiet. And if you're going to tell the truth of what happened, you can't do it anonymously. I mean, can you imagine when we wrote the Declaration of Independence and sent it to the king, if we signed it, anonymous? You gotta own it. And knowing all of those things that would come, the backlash, you're a traitor. How dare you speak ill of our greatest ally? That's been a lot of the backlash from the military is how dare you speak ill of our greatest ally? And I ask these people, have you ever worked with them? Because boy, we talk about it a lot, but have you ever worked with them? No. And even if you've worked with them, have you ever seen them in action, in their element, in combat with no accountability and watch them in their natural environment? No? Well, I have, and I'll tell you, it's wrong. And, with all the backlash and the insults and the hate, I still have my family. My dog still jumps up and hugs me when I get home because he knows who feeds him. My parents still send me Christmas cards. My friends that have been my friends for decades and years, who I've known since I was a young lieutenant, are still my friends. And yeah, so there's been a lot of backlash, a lot of hate, a lot of insults from, quite frankly, a lot of cowards, a lot of people that hide behind avatars and fake names that want to say things that it really doesn't impact me. It did in the beginning. I was like, oh my God, I didn't realize so many people dislike me. But then I realized it's not me. It's not me they dislike. They don't even know me.
No.
You held a mirror up in front of them.
That's right.
Yeah.
Anybody that speaks ill of this entrenched, toxic, codependent, destructive relationship between the United States and Israel, as soon as you speak up and show that mirror, you're now the target. It's not just me. I mean, look across the board. Thomas Massey, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Charlie Kirk. Not just me.
I was just going to go there. I'm thinking that obviously, perhaps I think we can assume that a lot of what your experience was inspired you to run for Congress. And I'd like to talk about that a little bit. You know, what if there's, I'm sure there's numerous things as to what inspires someone to run. But why don't you tell us about your story and what inspired you to run for Congress?
So when I first returned home, tell you the truth, I had no idea what AIPAC was. About a year ago, I had no idea what AIPAC was. I didn't know any of this stuff. I trusted our government. I trusted our elected officials. And when I got home, I sat down and I Googled, how do you report a war crime? Mm-hmm. And it brought me to the Human Rights Watch. And I contacted them. And I told them my side of things. And they're like, oh, damn. So they then coordinated meetings with senators and representatives. And I went to meet them July 2025 in person in Congress. And I thought that when I told them these things, that the response was going to be, oh my God, what? No, the response was, we know. We're aware. I was like, okay, maybe you didn't hear me. Like genocide. Well, and for some, it was, we're aware and we believe it to be such. And man, we cannot gain an inch in this Congress with people like, we need your help. Would you go on the record with this stuff? And I'm like, okay, yeah, that's how this story how this effort started. And then for some I talked to, it was, oh, we know. And by God, we're going to keep allowing Israel to do it. We're going to fund them. We're going to give them the bombs and more power to them. The more they kill, the better. That's your Randy Fines, your Lindsey Grahams, your Tom Cottons.
Oh God. Don't even bring up his name.
Your Brian Mass, the guy that wore the IDF uniform to Congress. That guy.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, he's running against Bernard Taylor down in Florida, and I'm pulling for Bernard hard. Tom Cotton, I have a hate relationship with him. I earned a top gifter badge or commenter badge on his Facebook because every time I just eviscerate him on every post I see of his. And I can't get the word out enough. A vast majority of my content is anti-Tom Cotton because that's the kind of scourge that we have to get rid of.
Yes.
He is the warmongering beaters of the drum, and it's imperative that we get people who have actually been in the thick of it. Sorry, I'm going to go off on a tangent. I swear I won't monologue along. But it is those guys that are effectively supporting this with arms wide open. They're welcoming this in, and I can't understand exactly how that benefits American lives, how that benefits anybody. We just had Trump in secret, I guess, signed the new peace deal with Iran, whatever. But we lost 14 service members due to this feckless, war. And not to change the subject or anything, but when you get elected, what is your stance on that? How are you going to effectively stop situations like this?
Well, I think we're at where it has to start is we need to have elected officials that do not take any money at all from any foreign lobbyists, special interest groups, PACs or super PACs or mega donors. None. Today's ZPAC is tomorrow's APAC. Yesterday's 8-pack is tomorrow's 12-pack, whatever you want to call it. We should not have elected officials in our government who take a single dime, penny, wheat penny, cent, nickel from anybody at all. And we say, the reason we say that we've been normalized to this as a society, well, you need that to win. Say the people that get rich from it. Say, it's like the drug dealer saying, hey man, you need this. Says the drug dealer, you don't need money in politics. Why? You only need the money in politics once you accept it and you get in bed with the devil and then they own you. Well, it's like that drug dealer. The first taste is free. You're going to keep coming back for more. And that's how they hook people. These people that run, hey, you want to run for District 13, North Carolina, you're going to need some help. We got this pack over here. Yeah, I really don't want to, but we're a good pack. We're the good guys. We're the good guys. That's how AIPAC started. AIPAC started with, we're the good guys. We're the good guys.
That's how they all start.
That's how they all start. And then.
So with that said, Anthony, would you then, I know you're running as an independent, would that mean that you would caucus with Democrats to overturn Citizens United and outlaw lobbying and things along those lines? Would that be your plan politically?
So yes, but I would caveat by saying further that the benefit about being an independent is that I'm kind of like this caucusing free agent.
Sure.
Imagine if we just had five members of the 119th Congress, U.S. House of Representatives, just 5. We would have had the War Powers Resolution pass the House the first time.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
We could have had Ro Khanna's amendment to take Section 224 out of the NDAA, at least pass out of committee to attempt to get it out. It wouldn't necessarily guarantee a victory on the floor, but we would have then had at least the chance to get Section 224 of House Resolution 880, which is the 2027 National Defense Authorization Act, out of the NDAA. So when you look, people are like, well, independent third party, you're never going to win it all. Of course not. Of course not. It only takes a small number to have that leverage. And it has to start then somewhere to show that, because really, when did America start falling in love with Thomas Massie? When he actually became really, in essence, an independent, Republican Party by name, but he broke from the Republican Party. But people think Thomas Massie, he's hot. He's the cool guy. Thomas Massie has been in Congress for 12 years, 6 election cycles. No one's ever heard of the guy.
And but voted with Donald Trump, I think 98% of the time or something. It was it was the only thing he broke from Donald Trump. I mean, he voted for a lot of bad stuff, like the one big beautiful bill that cut a lot of programs. Like he did a lot of bad stuff. He broke with Donald Trump on Epstein, right? Israel.
And in a way, because he broke on that issue. Mm-hmm. In a way, because he broke rank and file with the Republican Party, he kind of became an independent, where he was like, I'm gonna caucus with Ro Khanna. I'm gonna get together with them. We're gonna do some of this. He became the type of congressman or representative that we're like, that's what we should have. Why should that be the exception? And when you look back and kind of rewinding to my, so while in Congress meeting with senators and representatives, there was this, we see what's going on. It's abhorrent. We need to stop it, but we don't have any power. And then there was the, we have the power and we're going to keep it going. Israel first. But it was the majority, the middle majority of, it's complicated. It's complicated. And I have gone to Washington, D.C. for 1 week out of every month since last July. And every time I go, I meet with numerous representatives or senators, or if not them directly, with their primary staff. And I take notes. And when I come back, and again, the first time I did this, I didn't know what AIPAC was. But when I came back, I was like, why did this senator have an Israeli flag? outside of his office. Like,
Oh, Stacy and I went to DC a couple of months ago, back in April and so did Terry T-Dubs. But Stacy and I, we walked the halls, right, of their offices, and there were so many that had picture of Charlie
I stand
Kirk,
with Israel on the wall.
right, and
or
I
the
stand,
flag.
I stand with Israel, Charlie Kirk.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
it usually went hand in hand. If they had one, they had the other, right?
Exactly.
And I have like pictures of it.
Which is a weird paradox. It is.
Yeah, it's a weird combination, but I think
Yeah.
at the time a lot of people didn't understand that.
No,
the
you're
Charlie
right.
Kirk-
You're totally
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, they
But I
understand
looked at that and I
the
asked
issue.
myself, why does a representative of the American people in our government have a? I mean, can you imagine if you walked down and you saw like Representative Lopez with the Mexican flag in the hallway? You'd be like, burn the man alive. So I asked myself, why is that? Then I started to look at what's Senator so-and-so's position? What's Representative so-and-so's position? Regardless, Democrat or Republic on X, Y, and Z. And that led me down that rabbit hole of AIPAC. And I was like, damn, the AIPAC thing isn't just Republicans or Democrats. It sure is not because of sovereignty or self-defense. It's money. Money.
Yeah.
We have to get special interests and getting rich out of our government. Serving in the Congress should be selfless service and duty to the nation.
I would agree. I've said this before, that the challenge, that the disdain that people have for Congress. I mean, you're walking into a building that's just not very popular, on average around in low 30s on a good day. And I think the frustration, if there's one good thing that we've potentially learned from the last 10 years during the Trump era, is exposure into how corrupt the power of money is over our elected officials. I do believe that there are good people with good conscience that are there to serve their constituents. I don't believe everybody in Congress, in the House and in the Senate have bad intentions, but the influence and the power of money. That's why I asked the question, would you be willing to lobby with Democrats? I think I heard you basically say yes, you would, to overturn Citizens United. So when I talk to candidates, I think some of the frustration, and this is just feedback, oftentimes we skirt around things to try to play the bipartisan card, to say, yes, you're an independent. That means you can navigate to either caucus with Republicans or with Democrats. But these are specific issues, because we know Republicans have not introduced any legislation to overturn Citizens United. So if the answer is yes, that you would caucus with Democrats to overturn Citizens United, I think you should proudly wear that, to say I absolutely would, because it's important to me to get money out of politics. That's just some advice, because I think that's the frustration that a lot of people have, especially when they see independent. Like you stand for too many things. You don't stand for enough because you're able to navigate both sides. Do you understand what I'm saying in that regard?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. And you're
Yes.
when I look at your platform, I see a progressive. Like regardless of
Me too.
the
Yeah.
name, I see a progressive policies. Right? Is that accurate to say?
I would say that is accurate. And I think if someone were to say, what are your big three, I would say putting American people first. And by doing so, let's stop fighting, funding, losing endless, feckless wars. That's a big part of it. Smedley Butler was right when he said that war is a racket.
Sure is.
Eisenhower was right when he said, be there warned of the military-industrial complex. He coined the term. George Washington was right when he said, but we cannot have an ever-growing, expanding, and standing military. And yet, we've done all of it. And it's the U.S. military was never intended to be what it has become. And what I would start with, just in a completely benign offering of, how about we just audit the Department of Defense?
They just haven't passed one. They just haven't passed one in like a decade.
How about we follow the law, actually audit the Department of Defense, and they don't get to check their own homework. They don't get to turn in their own homework and say, hey, I got 100. No. An actual
it's like
audit. And then we actually hold accountable. And before we even have to have a conversation on what to cut, we can take that money that we actually take back from a good old fashioned audit and say, well, shit, look at this one. And then we start actually looking at, wouldn't it be great if Americans could afford healthcare, if we actually paid our teachers a salary that they could actually live on and then focus on teaching our children. Let's not be, first in the world in number of UFC fights we held on the White House lawn. And let's be first in literacy for once, because we're nowhere near that.
Yeah, let's talk about some of your policy positions, because I saw that on your website about Medicare for All. I think one of the challenges that a lot of people face that are running for office, and we've had many conversations, I've been fortunate that Lisa's invited me up for many of these conversations. I'm not yet convinced that first-time candidates know how to sell Medicare for All to the American public. How would you sell it?
Well, this is something that I have recently learned about, because I am a 100% totally and permanently disabled veteran. I am a reliant on the state, VA. And what I've recently learned in terms of this whole healthcare process and Medicare and Medicaid, et cetera, is that I have 100% of my needs, from toenails to teeth to everything in between, covered by the VA. But that's because I'm 100% totally and permanently disabled. Had I not been and simply retired but not totally disabled, I would have to then rely on TRICARE, a form of Medicare. And in that, because I would have TRICARE, when Medicare, I would get my little, I have it, got it right here because I'm reading about more and more about it, because I'm now a product that relies on it, was that, okay, Medicare A, B, and C. Okay, here it is. Well, you know what? I don't need B because I have this covered by TRICARE. Well, then I get in the mail, oh, you decline B, you lose A, and therefore you have nothing. And then I thought to myself, what about the average American who maybe can't afford B, but needs A to cover emergencies, hospitalization, etc., and they realize that they can't, they can buy the Ford Taurus, they can't afford the Lexus. But if they don't lease the Lexus, they don't even get the Taurus. Making healthcare, therefore, unaffordable for even the basic needs for the basic American. And then when you look at Americans that either work a full-time job or have benefits in the military, whose healthcare is covered either by their employer while they're employed or afterwards through some type of healthcare coverage, then those that we're leaving without are the majority of the hardworking Americans who can't afford it. So therefore they get none. And then because they have none, there will be those emergencies to where they aren't buying into the program, so that cost is astronomical, and maybe they can't pay it. Or maybe they have to pay it and they're living in debt. Why can't we provide a universal healthcare model for all Americans that cover up to a certain amount? And then looking at, most Americans would fall into where their employer or their work history and or Social Security, et cetera, already cover it, to where those that we're covering out of pocket, majority are those that are actually paying taxes and paying into Social Security anyway. And oh, by the way, yes, even immigrant workers pay into Social Security and they never get to benefit from it.
Yes, undocumented immigrants, yes, they pay into
it. Absolutely.
They pay federal taxes, they pay state taxes.
Mm-hmm. And if we were to say every undocumented migrant worker, get out of here, well, guess what? You can kiss your Social Security goodbye, because they fund about $96 billion of it.
Yeah, again, I think that's the challenge. That's why I asked you the question specifically, because I think the issue that we have with Medicare for All, by the way, I live in Vermont. I've worked on 2 of Bernie's campaigns, served in my state legislature. So this has been something that Bernie's been talking about, the Medicare for All model, for a long time, and he's been pretty consistent on it. What we don't talk about enough in trying to sell Medicare for all or universal health care to the American citizens is the amount of money that we would save
Yes.
as taxpayers.
Yes.
That's the part. That's why I'm asking you to focus on. Yeah. So it's like on average, we spend $15,000 per person per year on average. A $6 trillion industry. By the end of next year, it'll be $2.7 trillion in profit. Our healthcare industry is a pay-for-profit industry. We would save money as Americans, every single taxpayer, for the most part. Some people might be net neutral in regards to their tax increase, but even with a slight tax increase, that $15,000 gets cut in half.
Yes.
I think that's a winning message, Anthony. So when you're talking about this to people, especially in North Carolina, I think that's a much more positive message to think about how much money you can save and still get coverage for yourself and your neighbors and your friends and your family and your grandparents and the veterans in your life. So just something to consider.
You're not
That's a great point. And you know, I think about it. That is a great point. It is not just about the cost and coverage from a social moral aspect, which is my position, but also to the position of it's also about look how much money we actually save in providing this coverage. And what I mean by that is not people that make a lot of money that have exquisite healthcare coverage where you can just walk into the dentist and not even have to pay. It's like car insurance, right? The less you pay in your premium, the more you're going to have to pay in the deductible when an accident happens. You have insurance, but you're going to have to pay for it when the accident happens. Yeah. Same thing in going to the doctor's office to where, I broke my tooth. I've got exquisite dental care. It covers dental. I can walk in without a copay, or maybe it's $5. Boom, I get everything I need. But if you don't have it, and then you have to seek that medical care, which you would be given in an emergency situation because you have a blood infection and you have to go to the ER and someone has to pay for it, but they're not paying for it. Imagine if that person had a basic level of care to where they can take advantage of it before it becomes an emergency where everybody has to then pay. And is it perfect? Are there always people that take advantage of certain aspects of it? Of course there is. But if you rack and stack it against cost, savings, and the net sum coming out the other end, it is an advantage to the American taxpayer.
Agreed.
That's a great point.
Yeah. And another thing, guys, like after you pay your whole life and you actually need treatment, you're not going to get denied. Right? With a Medicare for all plan, you're not going to get denied for life-saving cancer treatment. And, because they decided, it's going to cost too much money and we would rather you just, die so we won't have to pay.
And some people have this idea of, well, if you're living in low income and you're sucking off the government with unemployment and Social Security, you're probably sick all the time and you just want to go to the doctor. Like people still have these perceptions.
It's hard. It's because of the propaganda. We've been so indoctrinated with this toxic individualism to not care about each other, to not to be very the very antithesis of what we used to be, which was community centered, right? And centered on the common good, or at least that's what we were striving towards. And now it's like toxic individualism. It's like, I'm going to do for me. You take care of your stuff. I don't care what happens to you, right? That's not my problem. Like this is where we've gotten to, and it's been purposeful. It's been purposeful. Terry.
So yeah, and I'd like to say on this thread too, and this is something that I've discussed in my lives as well, is just look at your deductibles, your copays, your co-insurance, and all those things that are not coming directly out of your check, and the fact that you would be seen no matter what, and you wouldn't have money out of pocket, maybe a small $5 copay, but it would be tax funded. However, the biggest thing that's troubling me right now in regards to our healthcare system is one thing that you and I have in common. I too, VA covers all of my medical, and I'm an insulin dependent diabetic now, and so that's important. Insulin is very high cost, and for people who are diabetic, I don't know how they do it. I really don't. I don't understand how someone could put up and say, well, I'm going to take less insulin now so that I can pay my light bill. But that being said, there's two things in this. One, the number one cause for bankruptcies in the United States is medical debt.
Yes.
That is a horrific thing. That should not happen. You should not have to, have a catastrophic event happen, medical emergency, whatever, and it bankrupt you. That goes against everything that I believe America stands for. And the second is the erosion of the Department of Veterans Affairs by this administration has been absolutely sickening. And it leads me to the premise that they want the Department of Veterans Affairs to erode to the point to where it fails, where they can privatize it.
Yeah.
I've been going to the VA for the past 20 years. I have seen the increase in the benefits of the Department of Veterans Affairs. I've seen when administrations has put money into it to make it flourish, and I can damn sure tell you when they have tried to erode it, and this administration is doing that.
I agree with you. I think that the intentional erosion and degradation of the VA healthcare system is specifically for that intentional failure to then force the function of privatization, which then means big money. That I see it all the time. Like I have the major regional VA hospital for me is in Fayetteville, but I actually live closer to Raleigh. So they now have these VA community-based clinics.
Yes.
And when you go to them, they're almost like habit, just out to the, to the community, private. And when you see the cost of that, you're just like, wow, glad I didn't have to pay that out of pocket. But Uncle Sam does.
Yes. Well, being diabetic, there are no endocrinologists in the town that I live in, the closest community care. There are no endocrinologists in Fort Smith. I'm in Arkansas, Fort Smith, Arkansas. If you guys don't like me, come find me. Anyway, so I have to go up to Fayetteville. And, that's
Fayetteville, Arkansas.
Fayetteville, Arkansas, yes.
There's a Fayetteville, North Carolina, too.
Yes. Been there many times.
I mess that up in my map all the time. 18 hours.
Yeah, I know, right? I've done that a time or two myself. But yeah, it is. It's no telling what that doctor is making off of that, But I can't imagine having to do that, pay the deductibles, the co-pays, and the co-insurance and all that, just for the right to be able to live, and that's effectively what it is.
That's right. It's my position on, when it comes to education, healthcare, housing, is not the position of, hey, everybody gets a handout, live large. No, it's a basic level of why should the government even exist if the government that we all then pay into through taxation can't provide basics. And I don't mean handouts. I mean basic levels of utility, of civil service, of civil providing of basic things. And it's not, I'll tell you, like right here in my.
But that's the problem, right, Anthony? Like that is where that for at least the conservative party, that's where they want people to believe that we don't need a federal government, that everything should be privatized and should be in the private sector, so they can get that tax money into the hands of their donors. So they've been trying to dismantle, especially the Trump administration has been trying to dismantle the federal government piece by piece, so that it can make the case of, look, the government cannot provide these services. The government is just bad at doing this job, so we need to give it to the private sector. But I know we only have you for I don't know how long you're willing to stay on here with us, but we don't want to keep you all night. But I actually have a question for you about you leaving the Green Party, right? I know you put a video out. What, Stace? Hold on. What? Go ahead.
I just wanted to jump in
before we get into another subject and do a little mod announcement, remind everybody what we're doing, who we're speaking to, and why. We have 232 people in this room, almost 145,000 likes and all of those things. We have 162 shares. So please continue to do all the good things that you can to support the live, to make sure that TikTok understands that we are doing all the good things over here and that we don't want no trouble. We just want to keep doing the good work. And I wanted to thank you again, Anthony. I'm at work. I snuck out so that I could come in. I've been listening, and I'm so upset I can't engage more. But
you scared me. I was like, "Is there something wrong with what I'm saying?"
I just put my finger up because I didn't want to jump in. Right. So I just sometimes we get caught up and we don't do the mod announcements. So please continue to do all the good things just to support, because we are talking about some dicey things, and these are Larry Ellis streets these days. So we want to make sure that we are protecting the live as much as we possibly can. And if I don't get an opportunity to come back up and speak to you again, Anthony, I just want to say thank you again. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your dedication. Thank you for your willingness to do all the hard things that some of us can't do. You didn't have to be out here on Front Street like you are, and so we appreciate that. And to just appreciate the somberness of what brought you to your decision and what brought you to our panel. And we can see the emotion and the sincerity with which you are moving forward in your convictions. So I just wanted to put some respect on your name, show you some appreciation for the panel, because we do get excited when we get the good candidates up here, and we are excited to see you. But I don't want to gloss over the severity of the situation and how somber everything is that you went through and that brought you to this place. So thank you very much. I'm going to drop back down.
That really means a lot. Thank you very much. My pleasure.
Absolutely. Best of luck to you. I will be in the chat. Don't nobody start no problems down here, because I'm still looking.
Thank you, Stacy. Always perfect. Always absolutely perfect. And always knows exactly what to say and when to say it. So I appreciate her. But yeah, I've been and I agree. Everything, I reiterate everything that Stacy said. Like, we can tell, and I know that Steve had said it too, that, we can tell you're still very much struggling with what you saw and what you went through, and the courage it took to come out, and the risk that you took in coming forward to let us know what was going on, us, the American people, and the world. But so there was, before I ask about the Green Party, there was a question from the chat about what you mean by a handout. Like, what you mean by handouts?
Well, I think that there are always those that are in need. And I think that what I consider a handout is that when an individual takes advantage of systems that we have in place for support and assistance. For example, someone that easily can work, but can use the system to not work and receive the benefit of it, I would consider that a handout, to where and I for example, for me, because I'm 100% totally and permanently disabled, I could walk down to the unemployment office right now and I could be on unemployment, but I can work. I can do things. So I do. I could absolutely take advantage of that. Now, for individuals that obviously cannot, and there are services and social services in place for those that are in true need, we should absolutely support and provide for that, and also support and provide at a basic level for all. But there are at times where people take advantage of those. And when someone's taking advantage of that, I don't see that as a hand up or helping. I see that as someone taking a hand out or taking advantage of what those services are. And I think we can surely understand and acknowledge that there are at times individuals that do take advantage of certain services.
Yeah, sure.
and
So
I'm good with
Anthony,
it.
I would just like to say, because I've heard a lot of people talk about this, and especially with in the, you know, with the a lot of the cuts that were made in the big beautiful bill to Medicaid, to Medicare, to SNAP benefits, to housing, you know, all those different things. And I'm a statistician. I work for the Department of Labor. So I would just like to give you the stats on that. So when we're talking about Medicaid fraud, right? Did you know that only 2% of overall Medicaid fraud are individuals that are getting Medicaid, and most of what they call fraud is administrative errors made by the government, and the other percentage of that small 2% are people who maybe they go and get a job and they're on, you know, they get a, you know, insurance through their job, and they just don't tell Medicaid that they did, right? That they got other insurance, but they're using their new insurance, so they're not even using it. 98% of Medicaid fraud is from providers, from medical providers, from hospitals that are putting in for charges, like putting charges in for things that they didn't do, for treating people for things that they don't need to be treated for, like that kind of stuff. So 98% of Medicaid fraud is provider related. The same thing that goes for SNAP, right? The biggest handout that we have for SNAP is Walmart. And I know that sounds weird, but I'm going to tell you why. So Walmart gets subsidized for hiring so many people on SNAP. So they get a subsidy for every single employee that they hire that gets SNAP benefits. So they are financially incentivized to hire people and to keep their wages below a certain amount and keep their hours below a certain amount so that they could continue to be eligible for SNAP benefits and Medicaid so that they could get this subsidy. And then Walmart is the biggest beneficiary of SNAP benefits because Walmart is usually the cheapest option for buying food. So Walmart ends up with the lion's share of SNAP benefits when people go there to make purchases of food. So when we're talking about handouts, right? I really do feel like it's another one of those things where we've been indoctrinated and propagandized to believe that there's this big group of people in the United States that are getting free stuff, when the biggest welfare queens that we know are Elon Musk and Peter Thiel and all these people who are getting federal contracts and the military industrial complex and the Waltons at Walmart and all these people, right?
You took I agree with you 100%. And the point that I was alluding to in that is that I don't see things like Medicare for all, providing healthcare. I don't see those as handouts. So
right.
in me saying it is that
I don't think that's the issue, Anthony. At least it was kind. I may not be as kind.
Okay.
That's a prejudicial term to say that.
Handout
to refer that's a prejudicial term because that is right-wing rhetoric. We hear that all the time. That people are taking advantage of the system. People are accepting handouts. That's prejudicial by nature. Now, we understand, like you described earlier, honestly and truthfully, that there's fraud that exists in systems, but the overwhelming majority of the fraud does not come from the people. It's from the system itself. Lisa just described the perfect example. It could be inaccuracies on forms. It could be administrative error. That was disturbing for me to hear you say that, to be perfectly honest. I mean, if we're adults here, that is rhetoric that comes from the right that we push back against every single day. You have to figure out a better way to describe that to people, because that's not in my estimation, that's not a winning message.
So it was my question that came from the chat. I'm the person who said repeatedly, please ask him what he would consider to be a handout. And the reason why I asked that question is because you went on to say, I don't mean just giving people handouts. I just mean, people having the basic. And I think the thing that is maddening. Like, I have an immense amount of respect for you where Gaza is concerned. I was on Abu Siraj's live with you. And Gaza is near and dear to my heart. I also am a veteran like yourself. And what I know about the military is most of us joined because we share similar traits, similar personalities and things like that. They tend to lean more conservative, more Republican. And as soon as I heard handout, my ears went up. It was like the bat. I was like, oh shit. Because it is a term. There's not a single person. Let me not say not a single person. What I would say is that SNAP benefits and Medicaid, in my opinion, couldn't possibly be a handout in any circumstance whatsoever, because they are so minuscule in terms of the amount, in terms of what they do and what they don't do. $108 per person to live on for a month, to feed yourself for a month, is like, I don't even know what to say. You know what I mean? And so
I think there's a misunderstanding here. I don't think that SNAP benefits or any of the benefits that we provide in any shape or form are handouts. What I said was, those aren't handouts. I don't see those as handouts. There are people that say, oh, you want to provide someone SNAP, or you want to provide someone WIC, or you want to provide someone this and that. Well, that's a handout. I don't see those as handouts. That's not, right. I don't think those are handouts.
Right. But then you went on to say, but for those people who are able to work, you made that distinction. For those people that are able-bodied, that are able to work, and they could go out and get a job. And the problem with that messaging is, across the country, 70% of the people that are on Medicaid already work. When you start to say people who are able to work, they should go get work, they are already working. 70%, and that's from red states to blue states to purple states. 70% of the people that are working age adults already work. That's the average across the entire country. Sure. Well, I mean, you said sure, but I'm saying, so when you say things, so let me just okay. So when you say to folks, I don't believe in, I'm not saying the government should just give handouts, and people that can work, should work, and whatever. The inference from that is, you believe that there are people on Medicaid that can work that aren't working. Like, that's what you take from that statement, right?
Well, I believe that in our country that there is a very minuscule and small percentage of people that do take advantage of the system, that conservatives and Republicans identify as the problem and say, look, we're giving them handouts. Yes, there is a small, minute fraction of people that do take. I'll give you an example. Me, I get 100% of my retirement. And because I am a combat disabled veteran, I pay zero taxes, and it is zero income. I also receive my VA, which is rated as zero income. So every month I take home $12,000, but my reported income is zero. I can walk down to unemployment and start collecting unemployment. Should I do that? I can.
I mean, technically you can't, unless you're looking for work.
Oh, no, I can.
No, I mean, you can, but are you looking for work? Because when you apply for unemployment, you have to then report to your state where you have applied for jobs. You have to actually complete a thing that says, I'm looking for work.
Oh, right? I've done it.
So, well, yeah, but so what I'm saying is, can you? Sure. So let me just be clear. I'm also a service-connected disabled veteran. Me.
Okay.
Yeah, that's also me. So I'm very aware of what our circumstances are and what we can or cannot get. The point is that I think when you say there's a minuscule amount of people that are taking advantage of the system, my point is, if we know that the number is minuscule, right? Then why even use the words handout? Why even talk about people who are able to get a job, going to get a job, not getting a job? Like, to me, that's not even part of the conversation, because the largest amount of fraud that is being committed in this country by far are the top 1%.
I agree
The
with that completely.
corporations-
It seems like the point of the argument is that you just don't agree with the way I explain something, but we agree on the same premise that the people that take advantage of our benefits in this country are that top 1% that take the handouts. The point that I was making is that there are people that the pushback that they give, especially in North Carolina, rural North Carolina, a very Republican district, that when you mention Medicare for all or school lunch or et cetera, they call it a handout. So the point that I was making, and that the people that call it that, is because there is a very minuscule, small portion of people. And the point that I made with, technically, by what the United States government tracks for my income, I make $0. I am unemployed.
And how
Nothing.
how many are like you? Not very many. I know what it takes to get 100% in the VA.
I'm not talking about just the 100% in the VA. I am 100% totally and permanently disabled from the DOD. Chapter 61, we are not the same. So in the amount of money that I get from my military income, 100% of my base pay as a lieutenant colonel, 0 taxes because of my combat coded disabilities, Chapter 61, and my 100% total and permanent from the VA. And you say there's not many? Here at Fort Bragg, where special operators are, there's a lot. I can walk down to the unemployment office right now and start collecting unemployment. Should I?
I think you're missing the point of what I'm saying. Okay, well, maybe you don't believe that you are. What I would say to you is believe that you aren't missing the point, and you will alienate the people that you want to vote for you. So keep using the rhetoric handout. Keep using the rhetoric that you want people that are able to work to go get a job. And what I am saying to you is you will alienate. Well, because you did. You literally said, what I am saying is for the people that did he or did he not say? For the people that are able to get a job.
That people could get a job, should go get a job. I was giving an example of what people consider a handout. I don't consider it a handout, but the term handout is a real thing that people use.
Anthony, we are providing you feedback because the chat and the people on the panel are calling you out on what you said. Now, I will give you the grace that maybe that's not what you meant, but that is exactly what you said, sir. That's exactly what you said.
So answer me this question
Can I please finish? Can I please finish? The commentary, the reason we're providing you feedback is because you used a trope and you connected it to people who are not working. Those people are getting handouts, taking advantage of the system. That is what you said. That's why we are all commenting on it. That's why we're all providing you this feedback. I trust everybody on this panel. We are giving you sincere feedback on what you said. The opportunity now for you is to understand that everybody in the chat and the people on the panel heard the same thing. You have to be able to accept that feedback. We're not here to gang up on you. We're here to provide you feedback based on what you said.
So then answer my question.
Yeah. And also
I go down to the unemployment office and start collecting unemployment.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to, but I feel like there's something that you keep saying that you don't pay anything in taxes. But from my point of view, from everything that you have done for this country, you shouldn't have to, right? If the rules are the way they are for a reason, right? And my dad doesn't pay taxes on his house because he's 100% disabled and blind, right?
Does he get unemployment?
No, he doesn't get unemployment.
That's what I'm saying. So the point that I'm saying, the point that I was making is that when there is fraud, that there are people that do take advantage of systems in place that are intended to help people that deserve to be helped and that are rightfully, as citizens of this country, should get that help. It is not a handout, but are there people that take advantage of those things? That is why people that are against things like universal Medicare or education, et cetera, call that a handout. Because there are people that take advantage of the very clear situation that I just gave you. And I would consider that as someone that makes that much money a month, that if I walked down to the unemployment office and said, I'm service connected, 100% disabled and VA disabled, I can't work, I should have unemployment. You wouldn't think that that's me taking advantage of the system that's entitled to
and
people
nobody's
that
saying
need it?
that nobody's making a judgment call about that. But what everybody's trying to explain is that just using the terminology, even if you're saying this is what they're saying, like we talk about it a lot with because we talk to a lot of candidates, right? And what we tell them is sometimes saying the rhetoric, like using the rhetoric the way they're using it, even if you're trying to discount it, it kind of triggers people in their mind to see you as a certain way and to think that you are like making excuses for it, or you're agreeing with the Republicans, right? And you're agreeing with this idea that this is a problem, right? Because of the language and the coded language that you're using. So by you saying, okay, yeah, handouts and people taking advantage of the system and talking about it, it's giving legitimacy to the Republican talking point that this is a huge problem, is I think that the takeaway. Am I not hitting it, Danny, guys?
I yes and. Okay, yes and. Because I'm going to tell you what I heard. And chat and everybody here, correct me if I did not hear accurately. Okay? Because what I heard was, I think, and I'm talking now as if I'm Anthony. What I heard Anthony say was, I am not for the government, like, giving like handouts, but I mean, I'm here. I think that the government should at least be able to provide. Like, why should the government exist if the government can't provide even the basics? I'm not talking about handouts, but even the basics. That's the context of what I heard him say. And you guys tell me if that is not what he said.
Yeah, no, that's it. Yeah, that's exactly.
That's what he's okay. That's what I heard. And when I heard it, thank you. So when I heard it, that's when I said, okay, well, I want to know what he considers to be a handout. Because if anything above the basic bare minimum is what you would consider to be a handout, then I want to have that conversation. Because when asked, right, to give an example of that, then it was that I think that people should be able to work, people that can work should go get a job. And so that is why I asked for the clarification. And then when you reiterated it and added the work on top of it, that is when I was like, because at first I wasn't even going to come up. I literally was like, somebody asked this question for me. And then when the question was asked and I heard your reply, that's when I clicked the button. And I clicked the button because 100% what I heard you say is that you don't believe the government should get handouts, but it should at least do the bare minimum. And people that can work should go work as if they are not already working. Those are the things that I heard. And what's not helpful, and I'm going to share, and I'm just sharing this with you spot on. The problem that you're encountering in this live right now is the inability to accept, like, hear us, what we're saying to you, to become defensive, and then to make it about your personal scenario. And that's not what this is about, right? It's not about that at all. And I'm just sharing with you that using those words, right? See, people are like hearing those words, you will alienate the people that you desire to vote for you.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, what we do here is we want you to succeed, right? We want you to succeed. We agree with a lot of, your platform, right? We agree with Medicare for All. We agree with a lot of your progressive stances. And so we want you to succeed. So what we're trying to provide to you is just like our advice from talking to so many candidates about wording, about how to say things, about how people take things that you say, where their mind goes when we use certain coded language. So nothing that we are saying is in any way like should be taken personally or anything like that. It's just, we do this to try to help candidates kind of like practice and hone their messaging and understand how things are taken, like how constituents, voters hear certain things, especially on the progressive side, which is going to be a lot of your voters, right, are going to be progressives, those people that understand what is necessary and what is needed in this country right now. And because we are so triggered by right-wing talking points, a lot of people will shut down, right, when they hear like certain coded things. And I think that's the.
Well, I did not know that the term handout was a coded trigger word.
Yeah,
So-
no, it really is.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
I wasn't insinuating the fact that these benefits that we're talking, if I thought that if I thought that those things were handouts, I wouldn't be running on those things as things that we should have, unless
So,
you.
yeah, what are
unless
the
you-
basics to you? So
Well-
getting back into that, what are the basics that you think that the government should provide?
Well, I think we should
Before
have
do that real quick.
healthcare.
Before
We should have-
real quick. Let's go, because I'm going to give you a practical example. So I work in media. I write speeches. I do campaign consulting. Yeah, if I was your opposition and I heard you say handouts, I would be using that as a campaign ad against you. That's the practical implication of what you said. I'll leave it right there.
Yeah, thank you.
I would like to say this too. Look, before I started going on live stream, which was probably, I don't know, 2 years ago, maybe something like that, I didn't realize I had as many blind spots as I did. I didn't understand the fact that the words you use are very important in your messaging. And I don't want you to get defensive on here. We're not trying to make you defensive. We're trying to prepare you better. And just know when we come up here, and Danny has corrected me so many times, so is Stacy, so is Lisa. And I don't take it personal. I understand that through my lived experiences, I have a different perspective, and I may not be aware of what I'm saying is being triggering to some people. And it is the messaging. And we are just trying to make sure that you're aware that certain messaging is kind of a dog whistle to the opposition. And we just want you to be aware of that. Don't get defensive. You know, we're coming from a good place of, trying to help. So,
So that when I have a debate with my Republican incumbent who says, I just want to give handouts, how do I respond to that without using the word handout?
No such thing.
I got you. What you say is the American people, if you consider food and access to a doctor a handout, I want to know where your heart is for the American people. Because to me, feeding children, giving them access to go into the doctor, that's not a handout. That's just called taking care of my constituents. And it's sad that you're not an individual that wants to do that.
And for the record, I don't think that medicine, food, education are handouts.
So
But
they are the
Right.
basics.
And I don't think that you do, Anthony. What I want to say is like, that's what you say to people. So do you know that just the House has advanced a bill? It has to go for a vote, right? But they have advanced a bill that will take $200 million away from WIC. They are cutting $141 million specifically from the budgets for fruits and vegetables, right? Right, for pregnant and postpartum women and toddlers. And so that's the conversation. That's the basics. And so if you are calling SNAP benefits the basics, get out of here, sir. Tell me where you can buy your fruits and vegetables for $13 a month. And better yet, I want you to go into rural North Carolina and I want you to tell your constituents to go buy their fruits and vegetables for $13 a month because you know they can't. And saying a handout is bullshit and it does a disservice to your people. Like, boom, done. And that's it. You got to call them on that bullshit. And it is 100%. You and I are both military. So is T-Dubs. It is a shame the number of military people that are on WIC. I was on WIC stationed at Fort Gordon, Georgia. If I am serving my country, I should not need WIC. I should not need EBT. That is not a thing. And the fact that this country still does that is crazy work. And that's just like, listen, you're thinking about how to defend a thing. And I want you to figure out how to proactively say what you want and why you want it. This is not a handout. I would cut him off before he ever even opened his mouth for that shit. I would literally say, and before my opponent mentions anything about handouts, let me just tell you what, I got no problem feeding women and children and the elderly and the disabled. And if my opponent think that's a handout, we're just made of two different types of people.
Yeah, and you could
There are-
even go a step further and be like, but I do have a problem with Elon Musk taking, billions and billions and billions of taxpayer dollars.
That would be my follow-up. I
Yeah.
would start with
Yeah.
just with your constituents.
Yeah.
I would
There
start
are-
with just the people.
Can
And
I,
then if he pushed back, then I'd go to the Elon Musk.
Danny, can
Keep in
I
mind,
interrupt for a
there are
second,
people
please?
hang on one second, T-Dub. There are people in debate space, Anthony, on the right, who do not think that food is a right.
Or
Okay?
health.
They do not think that food is a human right. That is the opposition. That is the opposition. That is real. There are elected officials who don't think food is a right. They think people have to figure it out. If you can't grow your own food, then tough shit. So that's why we're trying to remind you of how important these words are. There's plenty of ways to confront the fact when people want to say the Democrats, the independents, the liberals just want to give handouts. No, we want people to eat. We believe that shelter, food, water, and safety are a human right. That's the answer to your question.
So I agree with you entirely in that the premise of the word handout is that in my district, that's what I get confronted with. So like, for example, when I go to a town hall or I do a community meeting and I talk about these exact things, that food, healthcare, education, the ability to buy groceries, SNAP and WIC are things that we should provide to our citizens. The immediate snapback that I get, and it's not just from Republicans, it's, from Jeannie and Joe up the road. Well, why should my tax dollars go to handouts? I don't think that those things are handouts, but there are a lot of people that do. So the premise of me saying it was to say that, and oh, by the way, I do not see those things as handouts.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the response to Judy Jim or whoever the hell is saying that is, what? So you don't take care of your neighbor? Because from what I know about our community is we are a community that believes in taking care of each other. And do we only want to take care of each other when we can virtue signal? Right? Mm-hmm. So here's the thing. I know you take care of your neighbors, Judy. I see you down at the damn soup kitchen. I've seen you helping homeless people, but that makes you feel good about yourself. Meanwhile, you vote for people that don't want to feed people, right? So you get to vote for people that create the lack so that you get to give and feel good about yourself. And I want you to go down to the soup kitchen, Judy. And I want you to ask the people, how do they feel about the fact that you get to feel good about yourself, handing them a handout after you voted for them to not have food? And I bet you they're not interested in your virtue signaling, right? So in North Carolina District 13, do you know what your numbers are for your district in terms of losses due to the One Big Beautiful Bill? Do you know what they are?
Losses in terms of benefits?
Yes, the people. You're North Carolina 13, right?
North Carolina District 13.
Okay. So in your district, 35,000 children and adults are projected to lose their Medicaid benefits. Did you know that number?
I knew it was in the very high thousands, but I didn't know.
Yeah, but it's 35,000. And your numbers for SNAP are 24,000. And that's not even including this latest WIC cut. Knowing these numbers is how you get in front of it. These are the things that I would be talking to my constituents about. And what I would be saying, when I show up at a town hall or if I go knock a door, I'd be saying, hey, I'm Anthony Aguilar. I'm running for Congress, but I'm not even here about that. Do you have anybody in your family that is on SNAP benefits or on Medicaid? There are changes that have happened that are going to be impacting you because the federal funding for programs in this district it's being reduced year by year by year by year. And at the end of it all, there's going to be about 30,000 of us in this community that aren't going to have access to health care. And if you know somebody, this is the information. I want you to make sure that they know that. And then you got to be asking the people on a state level, right? Because I'm running for Congress. I'm not running for your state house. But we've got to be asking people in your state house, what are they trying to do as the state of North Carolina to offset the reduction in federal funding, because that's a huge mark. So if you don't know this, and let me just say this to you, I will happily give you the link to my Google Drive with all of this info. And if you ever want to role play with me, I ain't going to charge you a damn dime, but I will absolutely role play with you and have conversations with you all day in and all day out. But let me give it to you. So when you look at your state of North Carolina, give me 1 second. I'm going to click this open for you. Things that you want to know in your conversations with people, especially about this, is that in your state, 73% of all Medicaid funding is federal dollars in that state. When that money is cut, how does the state of North Carolina plan to make up for it? Because I would bet, and I would argue that they can't. On a state level, they do not have the funds to make up that deficit. So when you are out and you are talking to people, it's simply about putting it in words that they can understand. That's it, folks. Listen.
100%. Yes.
That's it. And you just got to say it just like this. Like you and I are talking right now. I say this all the time. You got to talk to people like they are either sitting in your living room, at the bar, or at the barbecue after church, right? I've lived in North Carolina for 10 years, actually longer. And this is what people have to understand about it. You want to talk about children. Do you know that 43% of the people on Medicaid in North Carolina are children? Damn near half. So what? We want to take doctors away from babies? Help me out. I don't understand. Why would we ever want to do that? And 1 in 4 of them live in rural areas. Are we looking to hurt our babies in rural North Carolina? Because I'm sure not.
Thank you, Danny. Thank you so much for providing that.
Yeah.
And that's, Danny's just a wealth of knowledge. Like she's got a whole thing of every single district in the United States and all those stats for those. Project for the People, guys. If you want to know more, it's in Danny's bio or in her link tree in her bio or mine, either one. Because I know you got to go soon, but I did want to get back to the question that I asked you a few minutes ago, which is about you leaving the Green Party. And I watched your video and I was like, oh, right? Like I was like, oh, because I know that you originally registered as a Green Party candidate and on Ballotpedia and all, it still says you're, Green Party, and I'm sure it'll still be on the ballot, right? Because the ballots probably have already been printed and all the things. So can you tell us a little bit about your decision to leave the Green Party and just be independent?
Well, it was primarily with the pressure from the Green Party of North Carolina with the really pushing different political action committees to be backed by or take money from. I guess they were starting to really like, why aren't, this political action committee is really good. They're not a mega PAC, you should take money from them. It's for the party. And then the North Carolina Green Party chair and co-chair had an issue with not only mine, but Brian McGinnis, with our veteran platform in terms of veterans benefits, seeking rectification for veterans benefits in Congress, like through the VA, that wasn't necessarily in line with the anti-war, abolish the military stance. And I don't know if that was reflective of the actual Green Party USA. But it was, my position is that not taking money from any political action committees, big or small, or special interest groups, or lobbyists, or mega donors, regardless if they're not a PAC or seen benign. But there was just the constant pressure of constantly being pushed with, to different, like as a PAC and in other political action committees to take donations. And it was starting to cause friction because my position was like, no, I appreciate the sentiment, but I'm not going to take money from any political action committees. And there were other members in the Green Party or others that were running that are, and it seemed there was this friction of, well, you're not
No.
taking money from these political action committees. This position of veterans benefits doesn't really align if you were talking about anti-war.
So you were getting the same kind of pressure that some progressives get from the Democratic Party about taking certain money, about having certain policy, platforms and holding certain views that they didn't like, or doesn't align with their, establishment status quo stuff. So you saw the Green Party moving towards, or at least the Green Party in North Carolina, the state party, moving towards a more being more accepting of PAC money, right? And the slippery slope that could lead down.
And I don't know if that's indicative of that challenge between progressives and the Democratic Party. Again, I've never run
it's
for
just
political
something,
office,
yeah.
so I don't know, but
Yeah, it's something that we have talked to a lot of we talk to progressive candidates, right? Most of them are running as Democrats. And they have told us, right, that this is the kind of thing, like one candidate said that they went to a meeting at the Democratic, the state Democratic Party was having a meeting for candidates. And they were like, oh, what is your viewpoint on this? Or what is your policy on this? And they told them, like, Medicare for all, say it was healthcare. And they were like, no, your policy is what we tell you it is. Your opinion is what we tell you it is. If you want to represent this party, you're going to do what we tell you to do, pretty much. And so I feel like it's some of the same kind of thing.
I would describe it as very similar. And really one of the first indications of that was we were, myself, Brian McGinnis, who was running, Brian McGinnis resigned from the Green Party as well as Michael Dublin, who was running Green Party District 2, North Carolina. All three of us resigned from the North Carolina Green Party. All three of us veterans. What I was feeling the pressure on that I thought was disingenuous to the effort was, we were all approached by ASAPAC, which is the Anti-Zionist Political Action Committee, and very excited about backing us, wanted to put a lot of money into our campaigns. The Green Party doesn't consider them a super PAC, but my position on it was like, I don't want to take money from political action committees, lobbyists, special interest groups, mega donors, Miriam Adelsons, etc. And the Green Party, North Carolina Green Party, was like, oh, well, Greg Stoker in Texas running for Green Party, he's backed by them and is endorsed by them. And I'm like, okay, well, good for him. Okay. I don't want to do that. And it just seemed like there was this disingenuousness of, we don't want to take money from a PAC. So we identify them as a super PAC, but then from other PACs, it's okay. And my opinion is that, well, today's X PAC is tomorrow's A PAC. They all have the ability to then morph into those things where there's influence through money of a candidate. And I don't want to start my campaign based on taking money from a political action committee, because no matter how good or benign or in good faith they seem, there's always going to be that callback. And I don't want to be in a position to where the interests and the needs and the desires of my constituents is ever in conflict or has the potential to be in conflict with any political action committee or special interest group, etc.
Yeah, no, I get that. Thank you. Thank you for explaining that. Steve?
I don't think I have any other questions. Again, I just want to thank you for taking feedback. It's important. I think the message here is we're all.
I think the feedback has been great, and
good.
Danny is a wealth of knowledge. That was phenomenal, and so what I will say is that I did get a bit defensive because some of it was like, I kind of felt like I didn't know, I really don't understand the language of certain things and how that can be. But I certainly understand how, when spoken, how that would be taken, because you're right. That is language that obviously feeds into that notion of, well, if you are in this position, then you receiving that is this, and therefore it has this bad connotation.
Right.
You're exactly right.
Goes back to the 80s, right?
I did not intend it that way,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
but
this is
regardless,
why we do
it's
this.
still a reality. And I now acknowledge and appreciate that, because it was not in any way whatsoever that I consider any of those things as those.
Anthony, what I would do if I were you, I would literally have a video and I would be like, y'all, I did an interview last night with some folks on TikTok, and boy, was it eye-opening. Mm-hmm. Right. And this is the way that you show people who you are. And you say, I had no idea that what I was saying in the world of politics was going to be dog whistles and triggering, because I'm not a politic guy.
Yeah.
I'm someone who serves this country. That's what I do. And so all of this is new to me. And so first, let me just say this. If you ever hear me say something that triggers you, that you think is demeaning to you, that you think is me not getting it, please let me know. Give me the opportunity to show you who I am, than rather you hear me say something that I don't realize is saying something that I didn't mean. And that's what I would do. I would just get all the way out in front of it, because I promise you, this will not be the first time you stick your foot down your damn throat. It will not be. And the best thing that you can do is you can simply say to people, hey, listen, I was on a live last night. I said one word and it was like, whoa. And then the beautiful thing is you said, I did get defensive, right?
I felt defensive because I didn't mean it that way, but now listening to everyone speak, mm-hmm. understanding that position is that you're exactly right. That's it. That's entirely why these words that are used, dog whistle or as a dog whistle, or as these words that if we use them, whether it's mistakenly by intent or not, it still lends to that same purpose of aha, he said it.
Yes.
So you're,
and it's because the rhetoric is being used against people.
Entirely correct. You are right. I have learned something, and I didn't see it from that perspective because I didn't see it that way in terms of me being offensive with it. But mm-hmm. to the point that you made, you're exactly right. I can't argue with that point. The challenge that I have now is that characterization of all the things that I stand for being in a very, very Republican MAGA-like district.
Oh, I know where you are.
Is that when you offer these things, and I've said these things to people, to some of my neighbors, some people that I go to church with, and talk about these things, and they're like, "Oh God, someone that wants to just, do." And I'm like, "Why?" I was like, "We're here in a church right now, and we're talking about like what would Jesus do?" And I'm like, "And you're really?" And they're like, "Oh well, it's just." Tired of hearing it, next thing you want to take my land and give it away to people. And I'm just like, what? So that's what I'm contending with, to where that's what people see it as. And for me is, I don't see it that way, to your point. But
that's food, what I'm saying. I would just give food. Food is not a handout.
Yes. Is not it is not a handout in any means whatsoever. That is what a lot of people in this district see it as. So I don't want to just not mention it in terms of the elephant in the room, but to the point that you told me, don't be defensive about it, be proactive about it.
Absolutely.
That's huge. I get it now.
Yep. And I love talking give me a Bible thumper all day long. And I will ask him, what Bible you got? Which interpretation is it, right? You doing New King James, you doing NIV, what you doing? And did you bring your Strong's Concordance with you? Cause I can go there. Let's go all day long. and I'm going to meet you where you are, and I will use your scripture. I'm telling you, listen, you want to meet people the way that what you just did for as long as I've been on this live. That last 2 minutes of you talking was the closest thing that I've seen to your personality and who you are, was in your description of that conversation in your church, right? And what I am saying to you is be that 24/7. And I'm not kidding. Tell people I'm not a politician. I'm going to say something and I'm not going to get it quote unquote right. But I promise you, if my words aren't right, then that means I'm not really representing my heart. So ask me to clarify and I will. Ask me to clarify. Teach me something.
Stacy and I met with Lance, who is the campaign manager for Matt Gromlich down in Louisiana. But that boy is, and I say he's a boy, he's a man, is all over the place. He's got his hands in so many pies. Like, it's just crazy. And one of the things he's doing is he's working with this guy, this man, Devin, who is an absolute political genius. And he said that we are leaving the information age and going to the integrity age because of the internet, because of AI, because we can fact check a politician in real time as they are on a debate stage. We are going to have an era where we are going to hold these politicians accountable in a real way, where people are not going to be able to get elected if they lie. So people are just going to have to be really transparent, really genuine, in order to get elected, especially by people who are informed and educated, right? And moral and all those things. And yeah, I could just go on and on. We had this amazing meeting last night with these guys, and it was just incredible. They're actually building an app that will pretty much allow you to very, very quickly, like vet candidates. But I don't want to say too much because they're like working on it, but it's absolutely brilliant. And so one of the things that they asked us to do is to give them a list of candidates that we think understand the assignment, that are about integrity, are about progressive policy that moves us forward as a country and takes care of people and looks after people. And so if you don't mind, I would love to give them your contact information so that Lance can reach out to you and talk to you about
absolutely.
what he's doing.
And Danny, I would love to, in the future, run things by you again, because I think you are a force of nature and incredibly just a wealth of information in your spirit and the way you attack an issue without, I guess part of what I'm feeling uncomfortable in is that I am a recovering Republican. I grew up in a Republican household. I served in the military for 25 years, surrounded by it. And I'm still, when I start to say things that I genuinely believe, I still kind of have this timidity of it, of like, oh, and by the way, I didn't mean that. And it's not time. It's time to stand on those principles with the courage of conviction and saying that, what's your problem with feeding children? What's your problem with children being, having and oh, by the way, did you know X, Y, and Z, in a way to use the facts as ways to stand on that principle. But yeah, I guess I in a way I was just kind of like, I didn't mean that, but I get it now. I completely understand it now, because had you not corrected me, I would continue to go down that path. And
I have to.
I'm sorry, Steve has to drop, so I don't want to cut anybody off, but Steve has to go.
Yeah, I do have to drop. I want to thank you, Anthony, again for your time. If I can help with messaging, it's what I do in my professional life and my day job. I've been involved in numerous campaigns. Currently involved in helping candidates with messaging. So if I can offer my assistance as well, because that's what we're here to do. We're trying to move the needle. We're trying to get people who are compassionate. You've got a great story to tell, and we're all trying to evolve, especially as men. We have to be mindful of how we oftentimes we can talk over women, and we can interrupt in those cases. So it's something we have to be mindful of as well. So there's blind spots for all of us, but I appreciate you taking the feedback, and hopefully you've learned from this. Lisa, thank you as always. Danny, always good to see you. Thanks for having Stacy. Thank you. Millie, thank you guys. Have a good night,
Thank
everybody.
you,
Take care.
friend. See you later. See you.
Yeah, much love to you, Steve.
They always call me Millie.
Yeah.
I'm like, I wanted to just drop a little. So I recognized your tone and that you're not really used to talking to civvies. You come off very straight, hardcore, and there's some softening that does need to happen from being in a political position that's now more on a softer side versus just giving a briefing to somebody saying, this is how it freaking is. And they know I would have said the F word because that's what I do as someone who's former military too. But when I went to USAID, I learned to talk civvy. And learning to talk civvy takes time. And it takes an awareness of where people are coming from. In the military, you don't necessarily care where somebody's coming from. This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it. This is a mission statement. It's going to get done. You're very mission statement oriented. So here's what my first tip is. The root of that word, I just want you to know, and other people know this, is actually not even Republican. It's 3K. It's the 3K. It's from the Southern Strategy. And Martin Luther King wrote a speech on this called The Case of the Others. And how it was only used as a hint. I'm just going to give it to you. Because maybe I'm just being my YN. I'm just being a yeoman, okay, an LN. Martin Luther King wrote a speech on the case of the others, how it is only seen as a handout when given to Black people or people of color, but it was a hand up until that point when white people got it. So now you know the root. I don't even care about the Republican part. I care about the 3K part. Because that's where the damage is happening, and people are gonna be like, "Oh, brother, are you really true who you say you are?" And that they're not even gonna care about your military side of that. So I'm just keep that a buck for you, okay? The second part of that is that I had a question on a totally different topic. I'm gonna wait on that, but I'm glad that you adjusted yourself because also being don't hate me, Danny. Also being an officer. You're used to giving the marching orders or the authority figure versus being someone who's enlisted who may not necessarily take that, who don't necessarily give the orders. What I've noticed from that transition from coming out of the military, my husband's a 05 pilot, Navy, learning how to talk to people in that understanding they don't have to do anything. So the command presence doesn't have to be so shiny. Let it get rusty. Put it in your back pocket. Okay, so I have a question about something totally different, but I wanted to just clock that 3K thing because I'm tired of people calling it a Republican talking point when its origination is from the 3K. I digress right now. I'll hold.
Yeah, that's why I said it. It originated, right? Like it's like the 80s. It was the dog whistle was, the welfare queen, right? That's where a lot of this comes from. And that's why when we're talking about conservatives, that's why they see it that way, right? It's white conservatives that see things as handout. And what they're really saying is, it's Black lazy people, right, that are gaming the system. Like that's that's why it's a dog whistle, because there's hidden language in it. There's hidden meaning in it. But yeah, thank you so much, Anthony. I just I just want to reiterate what everybody said. I am so grateful to you for coming in here and educating us on and informing us on what's going on in Gaza. I mean, a lot of us knew some of it, and we saw you on A Money and Abu Siraj's panel, speaking quite a few times. And Stacy, all of us are very much, we very much want to make sure as many people as possible understand what's going on in Gaza, that this is not just a talking point. This is not propaganda, right? This is real. This is stuff is really happening to children, to innocent people that didn't do anything. That it's real. This is what's happening, and it's Israel, right? It's Israel. These people are monsters. And you were talking about the IDF, and I had a question came in my mind, and it went right back out. But the IDF, when you're talking about their, that they're not like the best military or whatever. So my understanding of the IDF is that these are kids, right? Aren't they mostly like young children, right? Don't a lot of these IDF soldiers, like they're required to enlist when they're like 18 and serve at least 3 years? Do I have that right?
Yes, the entire Israeli society is a conscription-based society. So at the age of 18, they enter service for a minimum time. I'm not sure what the minimum, it's 3 or 4, but for the most part, the reserve units that are deployed to Gaza, because the active units, or the Golani brigades, are deployed in the north in Lebanon. So the units that are really pumped into Gaza are the reserve units, where you have a lot of very young soldiers.
It's something I also wanted to ask you. When you started seeing that what you were told, right, what you were told your mission was, and then you actually started putting the pieces together of what was actually happening on the ground, how was your colleagues reacting? How were the other people that were there with you? How were they reacting? Were they just like going along, or were they having problems? Like, were you discussing it amongst yourselves?
We were, and there were quite a few of the contractors within UG Solutions that resigned and left before I did. So like the second in charge of the entire contract, the second-hand man to the contract lead, after the very first day of distribution, he left, and he was a former 05 Green Beret that I had served with while active duty. And I was like, what's going on? Everything okay? And he's like, man, there's stuff going on with this that is not right. And I was like, well, I mean, it's disorganized, and yeah, the IDF are pretty brutal, but I mean, these are all things that we can fix. We can fix the convoys. We can get more food in. And he was like, yeah, I just can't be a part of it. He left. There were about 8 contractors that resigned before I did.
Mm-hmm. So in the beginning, you were idealistic that you could fix it. Well,
so in a sense, yes, but also in a realistic sense, there were all of the things that we were confronting in terms of bringing in more food, or simply dedicating convoys to water, or integrating a better convoy plan for bringing in more food and more sites. Those were all easily achievable, doable, fixable things. It wasn't until it became clear to me that it wasn't a matter of can fix these things. It's that in every plan that we submitted, at one point I even submitted this 11-page document about how to logistics, the convoys, the security, and it was just disregarded. So it became clear to me at the point where these issues aren't going to be fixed, not because they can't be, but because they're intentionally not going to be.
Right. Yeah, and that's what I got from it. It's like, oh, I thought they just didn't know what they were doing. And then I realized, oh, this is all intentional. This is what they are literally doing this on purpose.
Well, we were put into, when we got there, there had been no aid going into Gaza at all from mid-March till late May. So there's obviously a growing and catastrophic humanitarian need. And so when we first went into Gaza, it was understood that there was going to be a lot of steep learning curve, if you will. We were going to have to adjust to a lot. But then as we, after the first 48 hours of being in Gaza and a couple rotations of convoys, we're like, okay, so we now know that we need to move more at night when it's when it's less observable and it's cooler, so we're not having Palestinians sit out in the sun for hours. We should move. We should have dedicated convoys for water because it takes a lot more resources to unload the water because it's so heavy. And then when I submitted these plans, it was like, nope, not doing water. Nope, not delivering more food. Nope, we're going to stick with what we got and we're going to do it in the middle of the day. I'm like, you basically took every recommendation and said no. So then it slowly became clear to me that this was not a matter of cannot fix. It was a matter of will not fix because the way it was going was intended.
May I ask a question? Like,
Yeah, I was just getting ready to say, because I just one of our we have amazing producers. I don't know if you know this, Free, but they are like in the chat. They're like, Free wants to come up, and then they're like, Free has a question. They typed your question out. So I was just about to ask you to go ahead and ask it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Anthony, like I said, I'm former USAID and State Department. And with the absence of USAID, who would have probably assisted with grants and staffing on some of this, I'm just curious, how hard do you find it now to operate in the void of USAID, and how is hiring working? Like, are you able to keep the staff levels at what you need to get what you need done there, or the support from other nonprofits? Because nonprofits will sometimes work in, like, I guess you could say, like, I'm trying to think of the correct word, like in a chain or some kind of like a system together to assist with what you're trying to do. How has things changed in the absence of USAID, and how is it working in networks now that you have all of this, like, it's messy. Let's just call it what it fucking is. Oh, sorry. It's messy. I'd like to hear, I'm sorry, I tried. I'd like to hear more on that as someone who comes from a humanitarian aid background. Over.
No, I totally understand that question. I'll answer this one, and then I got to cut over. I'm going to do a live interview with Soleiman. So I'll answer this one real quick, and happy to do more in the future. But to that point, I've worked with USAID before throughout my career, whether it was the Southern Philippines, Syria, Afghanistan, Tajikistan, and I knew the catastrophic effects of not having USAID operating when you have a humanitarian mission that's either parallel to military operations or in and of itself a mission. Humanitarian assistance, humanitarian aid as or humanitarian assistance as an operation requires skill and expertise and people that you wouldn't take someone from USAID and give them a gun and say, go pretend you're in the military. So why would you take someone who had time in the military, give them a gun and say, go pretend like you're USAID? So the fact that USAID has been gutted and shuttered is catastrophic for humanitarian assistance, humanitarian aid around the world. And it certainly is a reflection of what's happening now in Gaza, to where even if we were to say today, let all the trucks and all the aid and let everything in, well then, what experts do you have on the ground without USAID and the UN and other experts in this field to then properly manage and operate distribution and assessments and your SWET MST and all of those things that go into assessing what the needs are in a specific area, not just blah, here's food and water. So the lack or the void of having USAID experts, and now around the world because USAID was shuttered. And what was really shocking to me is that grant money that typically would have gone through USAID to then use all went to the GHF. $60 million of USAID grant money went whoop to GHF. And what did they spend it on? God only knows.
Well, thank you so much, Anthony. Again, thank you for being here. Yeah, we would love to have you back and talk to you again, because I know we just had a million questions.
I learned so much, and this was so educational, and it was incredibly helpful. And
of course,
full transparency, I was a little defensive at first because I was like, I felt like, whoa, but then what I realized is that you're absolutely
we're just
right.
helping. Yep,
No,
we're just trying to help.
Right. And then the further highlighting of it in terms of why things like that in terms of what they mean, and to even acknowledge it, even as an acknowledgement of trying to then deflect against it, is still giving it life to something that is so horrible. And you're right, that it's prejudice, it's racism, it's bigotry. It's all sewn into the words that we use. And to learn that now, point taken. And this was so educational for me. And I do appreciate the input and the feedback, and not like for Danny and for others, of not tiptoeing around it and just coming right at it. Like, dude, you're ignorant in this. Let me educate you. Like, very, very helpful.
You know, and I appreciate it. Yeah. It's Danny and Steve and Stacy are not going to sugarcoat anything. I am the sugarcoat queen, right? It's what I try to do. It's just who I'm like working on it, guys. I am working on it.
Not when she talking about white people though.
And I mean, for Danny, I would love at some point down the road to role play with Danny in terms of like, hey, you're a
Danny loves role play.
Let me pretend I'm on a town hall and you're asking me a question, because I'm telling you, some of the folks in District 13 are old school Southern Republican North Carolinians, to where if you put it to them in the way they see things, like why wouldn't you want to help children, right? Like putting it in that very basic, upfront human way is the way through to some of these people that see things as just in that way of like, oh, that's just this.
Well, so just shoot me a message. I'm happy to role play. If you go to my YouTube, there's a role play up right now for me and a dude that was on my panel a couple of days ago.
Oh, nice. Wow.
It's, to me, it's one of the most effective things ever. I just have you pretend to be the other people, and then I would just pretend to be you, and you would fire off everything like the girl at church, whatever she would say, just pretend to be her. And then we just do it from there, and we can record them, and you can do whatever you want to with them and what have you. And then if your staff wants access to the Google Drive, just let me know and just talk about it. The only other piece that I will offer you is let people see you. Like right now, I'm looking at your background and I'm checking. I'm like, look at this light colonel. He's showing everything in the background. Flags, got the little class, everything back there in the back. You're gonna have to be like, I'm coming to your farm, help me avoid the horse shit. Tell me about, what it is, like just the deep breath, just you, not just the military side of you, not just the colonel side of you, but who are you as a person? People have to get to know who you are. And that's going to be your greatest challenge as a military person, is being vulnerable and just letting people see you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as representatives now, we want somebody who's going to represent us. So we need to know that you're one of us. And that's just, it's just like, flaws, warts and all, that you're one of us, and that you're just going to be straight with us, right? It's the Mom Donnie blueprint, right? Mom Donnie does this brilliantly. He's like, look, this is the problem. This is how we got here. This is how I want to solve it. And these are the obstacles in my way.
In a very clear way. So
in a very clear.
Listen, tell Solomon, come talk to me. No, I'm just kidding. He's a badass. Go do what you do.
Yeah.
Do what you do. I just want to say thank you as well.
Thank you.
Please don't sleep on the invitation that Danny has extended to you.
I won't.
She will be your best secret weapon. They won't even see you coming. Their brains don't work like Danny's brain, and she will give you the knowledge that when you speak, when you rebut them, they'll just be like you'll just see them glitch, because they won't have anything. And it's never coming from a nasty place. Like, you're not going to make people defensive. They're just going to lean in, and they're going to see what Danny was just saying. They're going to see you. They're going to see your heart. And if you do all of that with transparency, I scream transparency from the hilltops. Love that you said, yeah, I got a little defensive. And I think it's a brilliant idea to do what Danny said and be like, listen, so this is what happened. Let me tell you about what happened to me last night, right? Because people will see you as human, and they'll be able to relate to you. And we like to vote for people that we can relate to. So best of luck to you. Can't wait to see you again.
I appreciate it. And it's been wonderful. And thank you all. And thank you for everything that you all do. Thank you.
Of course, Anthony. Anytime you want to come back and talk to us or give us a campaign update or just, roll out some new messaging, whatever you do, you know where we're at. You can just drop us a line and say, yo, Lisa, can I come back on? I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, I'll swing through your lives. I sometimes listen to them. Sometimes, like if I'm driving and I know I can't like come on and participate, I'll listen. And I even thought to myself once, like, man, I hope I never have to go toe to toe with Danny. And here I found this.
You and everybody else.
Stepped in it.
That's hilarious.
Trial by fire.
Yeah. Just hit me up.
Thank you.
Yep.
I'll talk to y'all soon. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Good night. Oh,
Lisa,
man.
and you guys want to hear, you'll be the first to hear the new numbers that I just finished crunching. You want to hear them?
Yeah.
Okay. I know there's been people that have joined in the last 2 days, but guess what? Project for the People is now in 486 counties.
Wow.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Wow.
3 weeks ago, we were in 446. We're now in 486. Yeah.
Awesome.
Wow. Crushing
I'm
it.
excited about that.
Yeah, you should be crushing it. Because what are you, like 13 weeks in now? 12?
Some
13?
shit. I don't even
Some
know.
shit.
Three months
shit.
and some change. I don't even know. Well, the first
I just remember
webinar
the last update
Yeah.
you gave. You said it was 11 weeks. I feel like that was last week.
a couple weeks ago, something like that. So I'm going to update the map so that it's ready and for tomorrow. And then we finished a bunch of new graphics. We had a working brunch on Sunday. And so some folks in the community, we all hopped on a Google Meet together and joined a Canva project that I had going, and people were helping plug in the data. So yeah. So anyway, and your nieces are back here. Listen, I don't know what's wrong with me doing crafts. Listen, why did I do? Listen, we making foam dough with. Last night we did it with cornstarch and dish soap and color and dye. And tonight we did it with shaving cream.
Yes, I thought you were going to say shaving cream.
Yeah, we did it tonight with shaving cream. And let me know, it all went well until I sat down to work and I got on here and I just leaned my head around the computer right now and looked at my floor. Somebody come get Mila. Mila Ann, come get her ass right now.
Well, listen, guys, I gotta. If you're gonna keep, are you gonna stay up?
No.
Okay.
I gotta go get something to eat and get in bed because my ass is tired today. Working.
Okay, I gotta run. I'm running to set now. I love y'all, and this was awesome, and I'll see you soon.
Yep, love you. I mean it. I'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you so much for coming up,
people.
and
Thank you, Free.
and everybody.
No problem. I'm sick and I've been missing in action, kind of recovering from a little bit of depression. Nothing to do with politics. My last IVF didn't take. So it was just like kind of mentally, prepping myself up and, pushing through it. And now my allergies are bad. GHF, people were asking about this. This is the Gaza Humanitarian Fund. It is actually owned by Israel and the United States. It has not given, under the Geneva Convention, any of the aid on the level that it's supposed to go to those who are residents or reside in Gaza, and is using the money that is going through there, slush funding it into the Israeli military. I'm sorry, I can't enunciate well. Israeli military. 60 million is whoa.
And Anthony said that when he first came up tonight, guys, that the Gaza Humanitarian Fund was being run by the same dude who ran like Blackwater. And if you remember, Blackwater was like a private military contractor.
Yes, in Afghanistan.
Shit. Yeah.
Including having 3 lawsuits of sexual assault, because I started to get hired by them way back in the day. Sexual assault, where their contractors actually did something to female contractors over there at the time, back in early, 2005 to 2007. So also it Danny, correct me if I'm wrong, partially owned by the Cheneys back in the day. back in the day,
I
way
think
back in the
that's
day.
right. No, I think that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, partially owned by the Cheneys. So the Blackwater, and then they changed their name to something else, Black something else. They tried to change their name and cover it up. So no, it is not a good business to work
No.
for or a good company to work for. And a lot of sexual harassment cases came out of this company as well. So I will never forget
Yeah,
that.
torture, all kind of stuff that they did. So tell me why.
Yeah, Mo.
How do you go from a military contractor that is known for being ruthless and just criminal to distributing food? Tell me that's like just a natural progression.
And actually, you shouldn't be doing that. So there's something in humanitarian law, and Danny, correct me on this if you hear it and you have a moment to download and process it while you're with the babies. It is really kind of dangerous for people who are in a military uniform to issue aid in certain cases. The reason why they don't like that is because, for example, in Afghanistan, if soldiers are seen as giving humanitarian aid to locals, what the Taliban used to do is see as that local as a traitor and then go and retaliate against their family thinking, oh, look at them, they're helping with the US military. So you really have to be careful on that. And then something he did say I need to correct. USAID hires vets, and USAID used to train the military in what are called patrol reconnaissance teams. These are the teams that used to go out and train the Afghan military. This is also how I met my husband. So that's how I even know. So they do training in joint humanitarian team and joint humanitarian training at USAID so that people could understand their roles and the importance of certain people staying a specific distance away from where the aid is needed, not to cause harm to those who are receiving it on some kind of level. So this is why USAID was so important. And I was like, what's happening now? Mercy Corps is down now. Mercy Corps is gone.
Yeah, our soft power was so integral to preventing a lot of the bloodshed and the conflict and stuff that we see in the world. And as a matter of fact, we should have been investing a lot more of a lot of the money that was going into that goes into the military and Department of Defense should have been going to USAID, right? To USAID for that soft power, because that's really where the progress is made and where the rubber hits the road, rubber meets the road when you're talking about that kind of stuff, those kind of programs. And Danny left.
Yeah, she said she had to go, and I'm not here to hold you up either. This was an awesome live. I actually met with staff representatives for the state of Oregon today. So Nafisa, who's on the board of council for the state of Oregon. I have a meeting that I'm trying to get scheduled for her, and she will be running for the governor of Oregon. She's going to be running for that position, and she will be the first Muslim governor for the state of Oregon. So I'm trying to work my magic in there too. Says, go get some rest. This was a rock solid live.
Babe, if you can get her to come on here so we can
I'll do it. I'll do it. I already told her about it. I haven't been active because I've been coping. I've been coping with freaking life. But I already told us, look.
Yeah, I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted.
Yeah, I'll also be getting the current governor of Oregon. I have a meeting with him, and I also have mayor of a couple of districts here. Two of them are Washington County and Beaverton. They are both mayors, combat vets. So I'll be talking to them as well as we look at veterans taking a huge hit in the VA. And that's something I wanted to hear about. Also, law of armed conflict and who's going to protect these veterans. This is what he needs to ask if you speak to him again. What is he doing to protect soldiers out there who are confronted with violating the law of armed conflict? And there is a shortage of legal advisors within the military. What is he doing to protect these new recruits that are going to be coming in and not understanding the UCMJ. What's going to happen to them? How are we protecting? And what's happening to, somebody posed this, but he didn't ask it, to active duty who are speaking out on this stuff right now? What protection do they have when there's lack of legal guidance? Those are questions I had for him that he also needs to be putting in his freaking pocket when he's talking about, you got my number, you can text me later. Go to sleep, go rest. Go rest. I'm gonna go Benadryl.
Love, I hope you feel better soon. And yeah, I haven't been on TikTok either, unless I'm doing an interview or I'm and we've only been doing lives when we do the interviews, because this is like the busiest time of year for me at work, right? These couple months. And we've been booking so many candidates. I think like last week we had five of them in a row. So yeah, I'm exhausted. Just saying, I'm exhausted.
Okay, I'll go into her Discord and catch up and see where it is that I need to fit in to help. Just drop me and go get rest. You guys have a great evening.
Love y'all. Thank you so much for everything that you guys did tonight with all the gifting and the tapping and all the things. We couldn't do this without you. Thank you so much to all of our producers, Tammy and Jen and Farah and Marnie. Okay. Did I get them all here? Yes. And we are looking for 2 more people to join our team. Yep. Thank you. Whoever dropped free down, because I went into my thing. So we're looking for 2 more people to join our team to help us with editing videos so that we can get clips of our candidates out faster. And we are all working to learn how to do this on TikTok, because I think it's the easiest way to use the TikTok software to do it. And guys, when we are live, there's a thing now that you can do when you do how where you go back to do your points, to get your points after you do the heart me. If you click that, right, there should be a thing that says send out a highlight or whatever, post a highlight. Make sure you do that. Not make sure, but if you can do that while we're live, because Brandy started doing it and I think it brought a lot more people in. So yeah. So if you guys, anybody is interested in joining our team and helping us edit videos, TikTok, yes. What? Oh, on TikTok? Yeah, so free. If you, hold on, let me see. Let me do this thing if you guys can see it, right? Let me turn this off. Okay. So here, I got my backup right here. If you do the little heart, where you would up here in this corner, where you would go back and collect your points and do your heart me. If you click that, that is not, yeah. See, I was trying to do it earlier. If you do this, all right. Okay, there's a thing that says post a highlight. I don't know if you guys can see it. See, it's like the third one down. It says post a highlight. And what it'll do is TikTok will generate a highlight from the live in real time, and you can post it out. Yep. And it's cool. And it'll bring more people in. It'll bring more people in. Because it's it says join that girl Lisa's live now. This is what they're talking about, and it'll show a little clip. Yeah, it's pretty cool, right? Although I have to warn people, be careful depending on what the subject matter is. I don't know if she was able to appeal it or anything yet. But Marnie did it yesterday with one of Danny's lives, and Danny was reading a document. I think she was reading something like the Balfour Agreement or something like that. Something, I don't know. She was reading it on the live, and they violated her. They violated her for that. And anybody that was in this live tonight and saw Anthony speaking and all the no words that he was saying, not a single thing. I didn't get a single thing. There wasn't a single violation. There wasn't a single anything. A warning, nothing. So odd. especially free because TikTok generated it. I didn't get a flash gold tonight. No, I didn't get one. That's weird. Yeah, it gave her a warning. It gave her a warning. And I think it took the video down. But yet TikTok generated the video from a TikTok live that did not get a violation. Like, she didn't get a violation while she was doing the thing, but Marnie got one. She got a strike. I thought it was just a warning, Marnie. But anyway, yeah, she got one for posting a highlight that TikTok generated. No, resting for 47. Right here, you know how you do the heart me, and then you go back and you collect the points. It's there. So if you tap that thing with the number in it, it's like a heart with a number in it. It should be in there. Like it'll be different things. It'll be like send a heart me, do the comment or whatever. And there should be a thing that says generate a highlight or post a highlight. And everybody doesn't have it. Everybody, all people don't have it. I think I have it because I'm a TikTok shop affiliate. That's the only thing I can think of because you guys now only have like 6,000 followers or something. So yeah, I don't know why that is, but yeah, I'm gonna go, guys. I love you so much. Thank you for everything. If you guys anybody's interested in helping us and joining our team and editing videos and all that kind of stuff, yeah, I do gotta go. Love you, but just let us know. Thank you, guys. I will be back. Hey, right quick, we'll be back Friday night with a candidate, Kaylee Peterson, I think. Kaylee Peterson. We were supposed to have her last week and she had to reschedule.